All right, folks, you're in tune to Mullins Music and Memories by Mark Lee, of course, doing the hosting and all of that fun stuff. And we're actually in for a very interesting conversation today. We've got a gentleman that has written a book about the Mr. Trump, the person currently sitting in 1600, as well as a lot of other things that are going on in the world. Of course, we are in the middle of the presidential race. We've got Biden doing his thing in terms of his campaign. And of course, we've got the current person occupying that office. And then, of course, there are a number of very important Senate races, including one right here in North Carolina, that being Tom Tillis against Cal Cunningham. And they're actually having a debate later on this evening. And of course, I know a number of folks have been following what's going on in the world of sports, whether that's following the NBA, the NFL season just got started off, and of course, just following all that's going on in terms of health concerns with the coronavirus and a number of other important things like that. So folks are definitely engaged and definitely paying attention to a lot of what's happening in the world. So definitely, I know a lot of folks are engaged in conversation and are trying to figure out what their part will be in all of this. So I know that we've got great guests. We always have great guests on our various shows here on IBM.TV. As a matter of fact, just yesterday, my friend Bill Tresvant had a young lady on that has been involved in trying to get women elected to political offices and things of that nature. So she's got an organization and she actually ran for president under the True Grit title. So that guest was on and was a very interesting guest. So I was checking out that show. But right now we've got Eric Lowe on. He has written a book called Trump, the Colossal Poison. So definitely has written a great book, and I'm looking forward to engaging in conversation with Mr. Deloach, who's down in Athens, Georgia. So he's down there checking out what's going on in that general area. So definitely, Eric, glad that you were able to join us and to have this conversation. So one thing I was just curious as to what made you decide to write this book. 'Cause like I said, it's a book that a number of folks would probably not be thinking that somebody in our community would be writing, but you decided to write this great book that focuses on some of the things that you have learned just watching, looks like social media, and some of the things that you have seen going on that he has communicated in terms of, like I said, that current person that is occupying the 1600 office. So if you would share with us a little bit of your thoughts as to why you decided to write the book. And like I said, I do know that you, in addition to being an author, are also involved down there in Athens as a songwriter and are definitely trying to do things in the music community as well. But I think most people are going to be fascinated by the book. So tell us a little bit about why you decided to write the book, and then we can talk about some of the things that you learned in the course of writing the book. But I think the first question that folks would be interested in it is why you decided to write the book at this time in your life.
Yeah. What I can say is basically my background back in college. I ran for several offices, and won those offices. My last office was senior class president, and so I'm a big. And what happens during the political season, um, the year going into I guess a presidential election, I follow everything. So I'm kind of like a political junkie, and I'm really into it. Everything that's going on, and things going along those lines. So okay, so November is kind of when I started writing the book. Uh, I was going to do music, and I ran into Macy Gray, so I was gonna write a song for that camp. But when the coronavirus took place, that stopped that activity because Atlanta's in very dire straits right now. A lot, you could say, in very bad positioning in terms of the coronavirus. So the producer, we really couldn't do anything. So then I really keyed in and focused on writing the book. And this guy is once in a lifetime type of individual that's just very unusual in terms of how he conducts himself, carries himself. The coronavirus came about, and that's been very deadly, particularly in the Black community, Latin community. So those were some of the reasons that compelled me to really to sit down and write the book and it's kind of information out to people.
Gotcha. And what are some of the things that you learned while writing the book? Like I said, he's always putting things out on tweets and Facebook, and some people think that that current person in 1600 may spend more time on social media than he does actually running the country. But I was just wondering, what were some of the things that you learned within the book that have fascinated you about that individual? I know a number of folks are also wondering about the presidential race. Some people are already saying that, of course, his opponent is way ahead, and or at least I think 7% ahead and everything. We dropped him and everything, so hopefully he'll come back and we'll continue the conversation. But yeah, we dropped him there for a second, but he's trying to come back on. Mr. Deloach is, but I do know a number of folks are trying to figure out what's going to happen with the campaign and how the campaign will go about. So we're having a number of folks that are trying to figure that out. So, Mr. Deloach, if you're still there, we'd love to hear your comments on what you think is going on with the campaign and how the campaign will manage. Because, like I said, I do know the last time I checked, I think Biden was up 7%, but I know a number of folks in the Democratic camps want the folks to realize that Hillary was ahead and actually won the popular vote. So to kind of go in with the attitude that you're losing, not with the attitude that you're winning, particularly with this man that is a master at social media. So when you were doing your research on Trump, what are some of the things that you found out about his involvement with social media?
Well, he's a pro in terms of social media. I mean, Twitter. He's one that really revolutionized that in terms of having a voice that can break through the media and kind of set the tone. There's a couple of things going on. You have, what would you call that? You have that Midwestern factor going on to where those individuals, a lot of them white workers in the factory, once twice for Obama and then vote for Trump. But I think that they're going to go back. They're going to go back Democrat.
Yep. So, like I said, Mr. Eric is trying to get us on some engaging conversation. So definitely we'll hopefully have him come back and talk a little bit more.
Yep.
Yep.
Hear me?
Yep. I hear you.
Yeah, I'm saying the last thing I was going to say real quickly that to the question that educated whites are moving towards Biden, and actually because of his background, yeah, he's that shit. Talking about he's getting some of those white uneducated votes, and that may due to the fact that he's a white male. That may be what's into that factor, but he's campaigning that she refused to campaign as places, but he's actually campaigning in those areas and taking those serious. Michigan and Wisconsin.
Yeah, definitely trying to get those things going in Michigan and in Wisconsin, and definitely a lot of folks felt that she ignored those places and that she didn't really do a good job of trying to campaign with those, whereas looks like Biden is trying to hit all of those spots. And of course, he did pick Kamala Harris as his vice presidential candidate. So we'll see how that plays out in terms of the conversation and what happens with that. So, like I said, you wrote a number of points in the book. I'd also heard that you had thought about the religious right, or as you called it in one of your posts, maybe it should be considered the religious wrong. So, like I said, I was wondering what some of your thoughts were along those lines, because it does seem that I know the evangelicals had a number of concerns and thoughts about what was going on in their minds. So, definitely, how powerful has the evangelicals have been?
I think that with that particular group, they said that they're for God, but yet they vote for a group that's not inclusive of minorities. So I mean, I think somewhere in the Bible it says that God is no respecter of person. They totally disregard that principle And the guy has has had extramarital affairs. He lies, you know, like you take in air, but yet and still they support that guy. So, they may think that they're the religious right, but I mean, I don't think they're approved by God to be the religious right. And until they, you know, follow the principles of the Bible and really be inclusive, then that they can be viewed in many circles as the religious wrong.
Gotcha. So what is your thoughts as to how the election is going in terms of the campaign? Like I said, I know that definitely Trump has been doing a number of things. Some folks would even say that he's trying to stir up hatred in the community, whether that's like pitting the BLM against the police or different other groups against each other. So what is your thoughts as to how the campaign is going and exactly what he is doing in terms of division factors?
Well, I mean, the concept of talking about, minorities, in particular blacks, are going to come to your suburb areas, and they're going to mess up the culture there. They're going to loot, they're going to steal, and him not being knowledgeable to know that you have Indians, Asians, blacks, some Latins or whatever that are highly educated and elites in their own rights and stuff like that, that the suburbs is not made up just of whites. It's made up of, of America, and it's very diverse. And so it's not 1940, 1950. So I think that he's very much mistaken in not understanding what the suburbs really consist of. And a lot of the people that are, I guess the extra point would be, and quick point is that a lot of the kids that are marching the streets come from the suburbs. So I mean, and so they have influence and curry and favor with their parents. So I think that the parents will listen to the children a little bit more than they'll listen to Trump, who doesn't have his facts straight and is liable to say anything at any time.
Right. What are some of the things that you learned that really surprised you when you wrote the book? Like I said, you wrote the book because you were following kind of what he was doing and just kind of studying him and everything. So had you thought about writing about anybody else, or were you just going to concentrate on Trump because he was so fascinating? And what are some of the things that surprised you that you learned when you wrote this book about Trump? So what are some of the things that surprised you that you did not expect to know?
Okay, well, I got into the coronavirus, and I got into, the as I wrote, you got into the demonstrations. One thing that I wrote about Black women, I don't know if I said it before, and what happened is that there has been a increase in attacks on Black women, just regular Black women by white supremacists, individuals, actors. That caught me off guard very much. I got into reparations, and that was kind of interesting that is starting to make its way and being seen as a viable and relevant issue that's coming on. What I can say down here in Georgia, which is very sad, is our governor here, Kemp. He instituted a directive, you can say executive order, that at the ballot, that if you go and vote, at the physical location, that individuals do not have to have that you cannot enforce them wearing masks. I read an article, and I include that article in the book in the back. And in Athens actually happens to be where he's from. But the council actually have some kind of way they put out applications so people could apply for absentee ballots and stuff, and they're very much in disagreement with what Governor Kemp is trying to do, because that's very dangerous. People go out, some people don't have their masks on, and they can expose the virus or get sick themselves with the virus in that type of setting. I don't know. I don't see the logic in why he did it. I'll put it that way. I'm not gonna go any farther than that, but I don't. Was there some type of motive behind it? I don't know. I just think that probably he should have came up with a better policy.
Yeah, it definitely seems like he need to come up with a better policy, some way to actually enforce the mask rules. Because I know that different states have had spikes and even have had surges sometimes with the coronavirus. What is the state of things in Georgia right now with the coronavirus? Are y'all in stage 2, stage 3? So where are y'all in terms of the virus and the mask wearing? Is it required to be done on a regular basis, and are they doing any kind of regular enforcing? Because I know here they're trying to get making in North Carolina make sure that everybody wears the mask, does the social distancing, but they have opened up the restaurants a little bit, so they're not at full capacity, but they're opening up to a percentage that can come in. So where are y'all at in particularly over there in Athens, but around Georgia in general? Where are y'all with that?
Well, what happened is that, I mean, you probably heard nationally that it got out nationally that he was trying to sue the mayor of Atlanta. He targeted her, but there was other mayors, Savannah, I think Augusta, that were trying to make mandatory the masses. And I think surrounding states, maybe Alabama and different places, were making the mask mandatory. And then I think the situation really got bad in Georgia, so then he came up with a plan that they could do it, but the stipulation is that business organizations, they still would have the authority to say if their employees were required to wear the mask or not. He still gave them power, but in public property, the say the courthouse, things of that nature, the mayors had the authority to mandate masses going on. In terms of where we are, it's not really certain, because it's gotten out that sometimes the facts have not been correct. One article I had in here where they were saying, this was in Athens. We had full capacity with coronavirus at some point in terms of beds in the two different major hospitals that service, some of the surrounding counties that don't have major facilities. What happened is with that particular situation is that there were two tests they said in that article. One test that was very reliable, that would tell whether somebody contracted the virus or not, and another one that was not reliable, and it could say that you were negative, but actually you could be positive. So there's a lot of there could be some misleading information. They were very concerned about that. And so we really don't know, but we do know that in maybe a month or 2 months ago, that it became a hot spot, the state of Georgia, that it was more likely per, I think, 100,000 that you could catch the virus in Georgia more than any other place. Even Trump, that his administration task force had tried to get Kemp to make it mandatory. Kemp didn't really want to, so he came up with that plan that I told you that the government agencies, they could enforce it just in the public locations, and that the businesses could have the flexibility to do what they want to do. And then the last thing that he snuck in, I don't want to say he snuck in, but he had in that it was not required to have a mask at the polling places. So we really don't know. And that they started with, he started opening up earlier than other people, and, hair salons in very dangerous places. It's really up in question in the air what's going on, but we know that it is out there, and you have to be very careful. And Atlanta has been a very, very much a hot spot.
Yep. New Atlanta was a hot spot for sure. A number of folks were concerned about what was going over there in Atlanta and all of that. So tell the audience a little bit about some of the other things that you found out. What did you find out? Because we are an international platform and everything. When you wrote the book and everything, what were some of the things that might have surprised you about his relationship with foreign countries, whether they were allies or whether they were folks that he might consider enemies or whatever? But as you wrote the book about Trump, what were some of the things that surprised you about his relationship and the country's relationship with foreign countries?
two things that kind of stand out. One is as not so much a relationship, but it deals with foreign affairs. South, I think Korea, pretty much at the same time we had the virus, they had the virus, but they were able to shut down and get their numbers down to somewhere, maybe less than 500. Here we are now, 6 million, and today 195,000. So we definitely will hit 200,000 prior to the election. So for us to be at the same starting point as South Korea, and to be 6 million cases to maybe, I don't know, they may have maybe 1,000 cases. So that shows the leadership there. I think what's kind of known out there, a known commodity out there, is the situation with Russia, that this issue about the boundary, about them, that Russians, they actually had an article. I remember the article was saying that they had got somebody who actually was a drug dealer, if you will, that some kind of way the contractors got that person to be a contractor for us. We didn't really vet that person and check that person, if you check the article. But that guy was a drug dealer that you got to be a contractor. The Russians got to that guy that was in the Middle East and Afghanistan and had him, and took money, and paid money, smuggled money to him, and he would get it to the terrorist organizations, and they would be the ones that would harm or either, allegedly, potentially kill American soldiers and also Allied soldiers. So that is very damning. The other thing, Disloyal. There's a book by was Michael Cohen that was kind of his sidekick or whatever. That guy alleged that he had some dealings with Russia, and he was trying to get some real estate over there. And the whole thing was not to win the election. When he won the election, that actually kind of exposed Trump a little bit more. And so it's like he's putting his financial interest above the country. If the boundary issue of killing soldiers, come on, that is very disheartening, and it's very sad.
Yeah, definitely. And what are some of the things that you found out about either his own thoughts on Black Lives Matter, as well as the relationship between Black Lives Matter and the police officers? Because I know a number of folks have been concerned about that, and it seems to me that he's trying to become the law and order president. And I know that that's worked for some past presidents like Ronald Reagan and some others. But I was just wondering, as you were doing this book, what your thoughts were about this kind of John Wayne mentality that he's trying to put out there, and trying to become, like I said, the law and order president, and trying to highlight what the positives are of our police force around the countries, and also of our military might. But I just wondering what some of your thoughts were on that.
Okay. Well, I mean, I guess starting back with Disloyal, that book, I guess that's a book we definitely need to get. That he made the statement about Mandela, that negatives, that he's terrible. He was upset with Obama because of Obama became president. But I think what was revealing in that he said, I'm trying to recall right off, that he said a disparaging comment about Latinos and Blacks, that both the Latino community and the Black community are not voting for him because they're stupid. I mean, that's a very disparaging comment. Now he tried to come up with you can call it a little thing for a little cover up for if you get a cut or something. And in his order, this is kind of how vague the language was. The language was that he's against chokeholds only in the case if it's life threatening or not. So that gives law enforcement complete, latitude to call anything. Somebody could just hold their hand up to you. I mean, some kind of way they can use that to kind of protect themselves. The other thing is also immunity, whatever qualified immunity. He didn't do anything in terms of knocking that down. So cops can continue, killing people and not getting sued. And so, I mean, this guy's very, kind of slick Rick. And he didn't, I don't think he in that language, he didn't say anything about cameras, body cameras, and things of that nature. And I'm sure what's a promising case is the one that's in, of course, the George Floyd is a promising case. I think that we're going to get some convictions there in terms of that. But what's very promising, and it's only because you have Black people that's in charge, is the Rochester, New York case where the gentleman had mental issues and stuff to that effect, that the police chief resigned. And it looks like that's going to be a case that's going to go against police in that particular case, because it happened, I think, sometime in March, but the video didn't come out until September, and you have whites, blacks, everybody disappointed. And I just think that and they can't, they protest several days, and they actually, in the midst of protesting, somebody that represented an official came out and said that the state of New York will have some type of grand jury to look at that case. I think the next thing, the lady mayor, she might have to resign, but I think that's going to be a case that will go towards the public, and that group going down will actually help other cases.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. A lot of folks will be paying attention to that and seeing how that all plays out and everything. Could you say how you got the title of the book? Like I said, some folks might think that it's very obvious and everything, but what made you decide to call the book The Colossal Poison? So what was the reasoning for the title of the book?
Well, I thought at one time, a serious threat, a national threat. This guy has gone beyond, national. He is literally poison to where it has entered the United States, and some things will not be reversed. He kind of, the next presidents, if you ever have one that wants to push the envelope, they have quite a distance to do it. And the whole concept of norms are kind of like going out the window. You're going to have to put laws in place. And I don't know, we don't know how far our Congress and Senate want to do, because it may affect things that they want to do. But any concept of norms is disbanded. So he's definitely a poison, and he has really brought the reputation and value of the country down. It's going to take quite some time for us to recover, for us to actually become I don't think we're the number one world power at this point. I think China is, we may be second, but it's going to take some time for us to regain grounding.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. We definitely have to try to come back if we're going to be a solid world power the way that we used to be. I would definitely agree with you on that. They're going to have to try to find some ways to get things reestablished. But even like economically, I'm surprised that a number of folks still want to vote for them that are having hard economics themselves, because we're definitely in the middle of several crises. Some people would talk about the race relations crisis, of course, the crisis that you've alluded to about the coronavirus and our health issues. But I think you can also add to that, a number of us are facing economic hardships as well. So a number of economic hardships that are out there. So I don't know how things are in Georgia, but are a number of folks there still unemployed and still trying to collect money because they've been laid off, or some of the companies starting to rehire, or how are things going down there in Athens in terms of employment figures and in terms of folks going back to work? And are you sometimes surprised by some folks that are still very much behind him, even though they've gone through their own economic hardships and are having a hard time just getting bread on the table and milk in the refrigerator?
Yeah, well, I can go to this concept you said that people ran into a white Republican, and the guy wants to buy the book. He's going to buy the book, but he's seen the wildfires hitting the West, and he you know, his rationale is that it's the governor's fault. It's not the president's fault. So basically at that point, I felt like I don't think we need to. Okay, buy the book. Maybe the book may convince you to see things in a more open mind fashion, but I really didn't want to get engaged in any more comments with him because it's obvious that the federal government needs to get involved. And they actually saying on the news today that some of the areas where the fire started was on federal ground in California in different areas. So it is the federal directly their fault. I mean, and here you got Trump campaigning, and there's a major crisis going on. People are dying. I know, like 2 days ago, it was like 20 people dead. You know, and he's campaigning. I mean, I think you used to stop that crisis. You know, but stop campaigning, address that crisis, and comes first. You're president before you are candidate for president.
Yep. And it seems like he's been running for president ever since he got elected to president. And I know a number of folks that are even wondering whether he was surprised when he won the election, that he was almost not expecting to win, but then he won, and he's been doing these crazy things over the last several years and all of that. So I agree that definitely he's got to do some things out there with California, because there's a number of issues that are going on in California, and they're still trying to figure out what to do with those issues. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how that plays out and what happens with that. So, could you talk to our audience a little bit about how the book is divided, what the chapters are, and then maybe we'll go into some of the conversation about what those chapters are. But I assume that you've written different chapters. So how is the book divided, and what are the chapters of the book?
Absolutely. Chapter 1, ironically, this is I don't know if I guess it's God. I mean, you can't I couldn't foreseen this happening. It's about sports and free speech. So it starts. Chapter 1 starts. I did not know we were going to have a demonstrations. Chapter 2 is called "Guns: Let's Save the Children and Keep American Citizens Alive," and that's about the gun issue. With guns out in the street, we might be seeing now that they never really wanted to solve that issue, because we can talk about that there might be a possibility of a second civil war. Okay, that's real. Okay, third chapter is about Black women. Stop the physical murdering of Black women at the hands of right-wing political extremists. I was telling you about that I kind of stumbled upon. 4 is about the religious right. Are they the religious wrong? Chapter 5 is.
Hopefully he'll come back. We have some issues with some of the ways of communications and all of that, but definitely seems like a very fascinating book. And hopefully we'll get him back on, and he can tell us about the other chapters that he's got, because like he said, he was talking about some very interesting things and all of that. So see if we can't get Eric back on.
Yeah. Sorry, something happened.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're talking about chapter 5. We were on chapter 5 when you popped off.
Yeah, it's kind of a softer chapter, kind of a fun chapter for everybody, whatever race you are, whatever political persuasion. Black and celebrities. This is a real interesting one. What about everyone else? Whites, Asians, Indians, Arabs, Hispanics, regular Black Americans, etc. It seems like he idolizes. Ronald Reagan was one, and I also found that Thomas Jefferson idolized the performance value of slaves. You know, it really put them in high regard. You know, Ronald Reagan loved Michael Jackson. So did Trump love Michael Jackson, and also Kanye West. You know, and actually his wife actually, kind of begged Trump to try to get the rapper I forgot what his name, the rapper that had the problem in Sweden. So he went out his way to try to do something. It's funny how they have a love for actually loved the black entertainers more than the white Republican politicians, believe it or not. So that's an interesting chapter. Chapter 6, we go into the foreign affairs, the nightmare of that whole situation. And I talk about the different countries. Number 7, you talked about the economy. You were talking about Trump's economy, make believe on the surface before the coronavirus. He did some things there that were quite interesting. And then immigration and policy, hate, or can we do better? That's chapter, what's that? Chapter 8. Chapter 9 is reparations. Had fun with that for descendants of U.S. Slaves or whatever. Is it right? Are we doing right as a country? Are we doing right as an option for the country? Chapter 10, I go into American healthcare. Healthcare are death and bankruptcy. Chapter 11 is Trump's impeachment. I go into the whole impeachment thing, a national security threat and international failure. And the last chapter it could be about 40, it could be about 80 pages long, believe it or not. I'm kind of scared to write a chapter 13. so okay, but I will be writing some more chapters later on for the second version. But chapter 12, we'll go there. 2020 election, coronavirus, and the 2020 social racial justice protests, a matter of life and death, success and failure.
Oh wow, that's a lot of good content in there and everything. You mentioned the guns and everything, and we do see a number of folks that are buying guns now because they're concerned about their own safety, or they're concerned about the safety of their neighborhood or whatever. So, what was your take on this whole gun buying trend? And also, like you alluded to earlier, there are some folks that are speculating that we could be heading toward some sort of race or class war. But as you've done your research on your book, what are your thoughts on that? And do you think that that's somewhere that we're heading?
Well, I'm actually going to do a chapter on that coming up to the extended version. But what I can say is I'm from Athens, Georgia. I lived in San Francisco. I lived in New York 16 years, Houston, Texas a little while. So I've been around, but I can say in Athens, Georgia, I was born in Elberton, Georgia, and formed down there. And you just know way back in the day, not really paying attention on see a certain group driving around with guns, and it was with long guns, and it's kind of like, okay, there's no diggers on the roof. Why would we have this extra firepower? I'm starting to sense that they never really wanted to, a certain element never really wanted to address the gun matter, and wanted to kind of leave it open, and we're preparing for the potential of the times now that they would rail against the government and actually at will kill people. I think there's underlining something going on more than we really knew. I think in certain camps of certain people, they were planning for a potential atmosphere to come out like this, and the vast majority of us really didn't see that and really thought people were sincere about addressing gun violence. I think they're willing to for people to die. For every once in a while there'd be a school shooting, as long as a certain element can keep their guns and be ready to cause disorder.
Wow. Yeah, you got a point there and everything. So what's your speculation? We're only about several weeks away from November 5th. So what's your speculation as to how the election will turn out? I know a number of people are talking about the fact that Biden has a lead right now and everything, but you've done research. You've been watching a little bit of the campaign, just studying what he's all about, as well as his office. So what is your thoughts about November 5th? Do you think that it's a given that we'll have a new president, or do you think that the incumbent will win, as often is the case? So what is your thoughts on where we are in terms of the political season and in terms of the political race?
I think that Biden will win. But I think, because see, the people that are switching are the educated whites. And they kind of understand, even in the South, some areas, they kind of understand that, and especially the elite whites and those that are, extremely rich whites, because they have the most to lose. Because if this country goes into a civil war, or this country continues to decline with the current occupant of the White House, then that's going to affect trade. That's going to diminish the country that much more. They have a lot. The rich have a lot to lose, and I think it's only a certain element that doesn't have. They don't have power, and that's why they want guns. They don't have power. They don't care. They don't care about what Germany thinks. You have to do business. They don't care about what Japan thinks. They don't care. Let's just if we can't maintain the status quo of, I'm a certain skin color, and even if you're a talk host and you work hard, I'm talking about you, and you're successful, and I refuse to work. They want to maintain that sense of power just because of a skin color, and I think that's you got too many different minorities in that are here that have a lot at stake, and he's just not going to win. I think it's if you had people that were not so much educated or whatever, then we'll be in trouble. But we have those that are, and then we have that extra factor, the Midwest I was talking about, that those people voted for Obama 2 times. They see that their jobs are not really coming back, and they're losing jobs in Michigan, and Wisconsin is, jobs are not there, and Trump really didn't do anything about it. They're going to switch their vote. They're going to vote their pocketbook, and they're going to vote early. In my case, I'm a caretaker for my mom, so I got absentee ballots, and I went back and checked, make sure we're registered. So people are going to vote early. Either they're going to go absentee ballot or by mail, whatever your stated setup will be, and then they will early vote. People are going to really take this election to heart. I guess 2 things you want to look at too that kind of signal some of this is the article that came out in the Atlantic about the Trump saying that dead military people are suckers and losers. What was the signal that really came out is that Fox jumped in and said this confirmed this report, and other news organizations. But when Fox did that, I don't know if somebody gave Murdoch a call and say, cut the nonsense. We're not going to accept this. And I think also the Bob Woodward thing, I think that's is more than meets the eye how all of that took place and who's behind that. And so basically you normally have the October surprise, but we have had in the book, we had 2 September surprises, and I think we're going to have some more surprises that will cut across independents, soft Republicans, and of course Democrats. That's going to make the difference.
And what are you expecting to be the October surprise? Because like I said, I've heard a number of people thinking that it could be the vaccine that comes out either from Russia or China, or it could be some other kind of things. But are you expecting an October surprise? And I do agree with you that a number of surprises have already hit us. But if you were to speculate on what that October surprise is going to be, what do you think that surprise will be?
I have no idea, but I think that we have people that are very wealthy that are meeting as we speak now, and they were responsible for surprise 1 and surprise 2 of September, and they probably have lined up about another 5 more surprises against Trump, because they have the most to lose. I mean, we do actually, I guess, minorities and blacks, and we have something to lose in terms of, of getting killed. But we've been getting killed for the last 400 years. I mean, that's nothing new. My dad was alive. A recession. I mean, black people literally collectively are in a recession all the time. Even when you have a a surplus. We're still in a recession. So that's, it's like not changing your position as certain groups of people, but certain groups of people, they have a lot to lose, and money is going to speak a little bit more than one individual, putting his will out, and they're definitely not going to listen to a certain. I mean, you go back in history when you had the Civil War in New York, you had that riot, and there was no problem for military people to kill people that were their same color that were poor, to force them to fight in the war. So there's surprises that will be levied against Trump, and they realize they probably need about 5 or 6, and so you have a few more surprises coming against Trump.
Gotcha. Now, one of the things that he talked about when he came into office was he wanted to, what was the expression, clean the swamp or clear the swamp. But some people would argue that the swamp is just as bad as it used to be before he came in and everything. So what are your thoughts about that slogan that he had where he was basically saying that he was going to shake up Washington? And some folks would argue that he has found ways to shake up Washington. But as you were writing this book, do you think that he's done a good job of cleaning the swamp and shaking up the politics? And also, it seems that we have less communication between the Democrats and the Republicans. I remember that there were a number of times with some past presidents where they definitely had a number of folks that walked across the aisles. So they, like I said, they were doing some joint ventures, and I don't see as much of that now, Lee. That's my take, but I was wondering what your thoughts were.
First of all, I don't even think that Donald Trump can spell the word swamp, let alone clean it up. And this guy's, that's just a bunch of propaganda. That's just a bunch of rhetoric. And the reason I say he can't spell swamp, because his niece kind of let us know that his sister, through tapes, she did his homework when he was in high school and things of that nature. And he actually paid somebody. He was so much against Obama, but he actually paid somebody to take his SATs. So we're not really talking about somebody that I guess through tutors he was able to learn how to read speeches. Okay, but other than that, that guy is very. I'm wondering if he has a low IQ. I don't know. I mean, but yeah, he didn't even understand. Let alone government. He didn't even understand business. This is a gentleman that had 4 bankruptcies. Right. So I mean, he didn't even understand business, let alone government.
Yeah, you got a
can't
point
clean
there.
up anything that you know nothing about.
Yeah, and I know a number of folks, even in New York, are not pleased with his business acumen. And I know that you spent some time living up there in New York, but a number of folks, even in New York, are not pleased with him. And a lot of folks were not surprised that is not one of the places that he did not go to during the 9/11 commemorations. I know he went to Pennsylvania, and I think he went to a couple other places. And of course, he's in Nevada, I think, today, and it might be heading to California. But a lot of folks observed that he did not go to New York. And there are some people that are saying that he could not have gone to New York, because if he'd gone to New York, they might have, as the old expression goes, run him out on the rail. So a number of folks said that he probably was not welcomed in New York. And I want to say that he's currently claiming Florida as his home of residency. So he knows he's got a lot of supporters and allies, even in their government, down in Florida. But I don't think he's the most liked person in New York. But you still have friends in New York. What is their attitude toward him?
Yeah, I have friends in New York, but I just know I'm kind of fresh back from New York, maybe 3 years. And I mean, the thing is that he didn't want to give money to the state government to help them out, and that's one of the reasons. And just always saying negative things about Democratic-run cities and things of that nature. And then also him going to Florida is to try to make it seem that I'm a resident of Florida, to try to take that state. That's going to be a kind of a tough state to win, because anytime Georgia is, anytime you have a Republican administration in power, it could be suspect in terms of will you get a correct outcome. I kind of think about back in the day. I mean, I'm a real political junkie. I remember when Bush was running against Gore, and Gore was basically going to win Florida, and his nephew or something. Bush nephew said, "Hold up, wait a minute, it's not over with." And then later you came to find out that the brother was actually the governor, the governor that he had it set up that he was going to win. Then Bush was going to, the state was going to be for Bush, and then when you went to the Supreme Court, they literally just gave it to Bush, and that's really what triggered, I think, 9/11. I think other countries said, well, America's supposed to be, the beacon of hope, but I mean, they're not fair in their elections, and I think that might have triggered, to be honest with you, 9/11.
Yeah, I can see where that would be an issue and where that could trigger that and everything. You mentioned earlier, and I've actually got a relative, a distant relative, that's involved in that and everything. But do you think that we can ever get reparations, or is that just like a pie in the sky ambition for folks that might be African American? Some would argue that Native Americans need reparations. I think Biden brought that up, and some would argue that even some of our Latin American communities might need reparations as well. But do you think that that's something that we will ever have, or do you think that's just more than those pie in the sky things that we will never actually get to experience?
I think it actually will happen. In the book, I kind of just, what I did, I said, well, okay, to white America, I said, now let's flip the roles. Let's say blacks were in control and you were in slavery for X number of years, and your foremothers and forefathers were raped and people were killed and lynched, and then you got to Jim Crow, you paid taxes, but nobody paved your roads, and you couldn't go to certain institutions, but your tax money paid for those institutions and parks and different things, college institution of extra, higher learning institutions and different areas of the black community was beautified, but your area was not, and then yet still you could not, go in the front door. I think if she was on the other foot, I think you would actually you would feel like I deserve something for the unfairness that took place on me. I think we really, with the demonstrations taking place, that kind of shows something is going on, and that the fact that we elected a black president 2 times, I think this is going to take place. It could be in the next, I would say the next 12 years. I think something will happen.
Wow. So you're expecting that to happen in the next 5 years or so. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Now, you've had some folks that have speculated about the Electoral College and us getting rid of the Electoral College, because a lot of times folks, like you mentioned, the case with Gore, definitely folks would argue Hillary Clinton. So a number of times a certain person might have won the election, but then they did not win the Electoral College, and therefore that's why we have these folks that have become president. So I know a number of folks are concerned about the Electoral College. And do you think that it's on its dying days, that it's going to disappear after a while, or do you think that we will get it's going to stick around, or do you think we're going to be at a one man, one vote kind of system, which is what the whole system is supposed to be in the beginning? But I think we got away from that with the Electoral College. But what are your thoughts? Do you think that we're going to have an Electoral College forever, or are we going to get rid of that?
I'm going to answer it this way, because I think what I meant, that kind of ties in that reparations. I would say in the next 12 years. And I think that we'll get reparations before we ever get rid of the Electoral College. And the thing with that is that's kind of like pushing it a little. That's kind of like the skeleton of really everybody's free will. I don't think they're going to let that go. But we'll get reparations before that. And I say within 12 years in terms of the reparation question. But the Electoral College, they're not going to get rid of that. That would be a 50-year endeavor or longer endeavor for that ever to disappear, to be extinct, find itself being extinct.
And another thing I'm curious about, and I want to know your thoughts about this, as you are a political student and one that studies these political things and everything. But do you think that we can ever have a third party? We've always had Democrats, Republicans. There are third parties out there, but none of them have actually been feasible in terms of electing somebody, be that the Green Party, be that the Libertarians, be that whoever. But do you think that there is ever going to be a time where a third party candidate will win? Or are you thinking that's another 50, 100, 150 years down the line, and they were pretty much stuck with the Democrats and the Republicans for another several decades.
Again, that's a, reparations will come before that. The either electoral college will be disbanded or a third party will have a problem. Those guys need to go in the ring and kind of fight with each other and see who's going to be first for it to occur. The problem is this right here: you got too much money in politics, and so what happens is, I think what possibly can happen, and I think you can see this, is, say I was a third party candidate and I was making headway, and you were a very rich, 40 billionaire, billionaire, $1 million billionaire or whatever, billionaire or whatever, and you're satisfied with the two systems, and I'm going against your ideas. If you're going to come to me and say, look, okay, Deloach, I tell you what, it's a great cause that you have, but I tell you what, how much do you have in your banking account? Okay, you got 2 million, but you know what? I got a couple of friends. We want to put 50 million in your bank account, and if you want to start a non-profit organization and talk about your issues, we're fine with that. But as far as you running, we can't have that. Or you can't get to me, then you're going to get to my staff and do that, and then they're going to sabotage my campaign. It's just too much money, and everybody's got a price.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. Now, the other thing I was curious about, and then I've got another guest I want to bring in, but you can definitely stick around because we got a while to go for the show and everything. But one of the things I've always wondered about is, and Moisey Boyd, who was on one of our other shows, that's who was on American Politics, which my friend Bill Tresbot does. And she's the one that ran for president. There was a woman, and she's trying to get more women involved in politics. Like, she would love to have a woman president, a woman vice president. And there are a number of countries around the world that have elected women to these offices. But for whatever reasons, America gets kind of stuck on stereotypes and stuck on biases and things of that nature. So I was wondering, do you think in your studies of politics that we will ever see a woman president? Like I said, Hillary ran. Of course, people do know that Shirley Chisholm ran back in the 70s. And I understand there was even, as Moisey brought up, a woman that ran way back in the early days of the country and everything. So, but none of them has succeeded. So I know a lot of times folks are still stuck on what we've gotten. And even now, folks are looking at the two folks that are running, and they're both in their 70s. So, and they're 70 white man. So what are your thoughts as to us having a woman in offices? We've already had a minority with Obama being our first African-American president. Or as some folks would more accurately call it, our first multiracial president. So what are your thoughts in terms of us getting a woman elected in the next 10 to 15 years?
I answer it this way. I think that you're going to get either reparations will go first or a woman go first. And I actually think that if Biden wins, what you call is basically a shoo-in. Kamala Harris is a shoo-in to be president. You're not going to be able to stop that momentum. That's the way it was going. It was on the way it was going to happen anyway. Is that she would have to, be in there as a vice president, really learn the job. People feel comfortable seeing her presidential, whatever woman that would get in there, and that party has strength enough to win and propel that person in. So I actually will think that Kamala Harris is going to be your next president after Biden, and be your first multiracial, if you want to say African American woman president or Indian American president. She's going to be the one that's going to be your next president after Biden.
So after Biden, you're thinking that's how we're going to get into office and all of that. So it'll be real fascinating to see how that plays out and what happens with that. Now, how can folks get a copy of your book if they're interested in getting a copy of the book? And like I said, I do want you to stick around, but I'm going to bring Dana in, who is with StreamYard, right, the platform that we use to do these interviews, and which I am a big fan of, as I know a lot of my other people are. But tell folks how they can get a copy of your book.
Yeah, you can get it on Amazon. It's on Amazon, and It's called Trump. I guess you can link it or something up, but the main title of it, the top title is Trump, the Colossal Poison. Look for Eric Deloach and put in Trump, the Colossal Poison, and you can get it on Amazon. It's available there.
All right, sounds great, folks. Check this book out. Check out what you've got to say about what's going on and all of that. So definitely want you to stick around and continue the conversation with us. But I'm bringing in Dana, so glad to see Dana join me and everything. As you can see, we love StreamYard here and everything. So you are a master of StreamYard, IBM.TV. We've actually got a number of shows, and we do them all on StreamYard. So I'm glad you were able to join me, and that we could have this great conversation. So tell folks a little bit about yourself, about this lovely tool, StreamYard, and also if we can expect any new surprises from StreamYard. Because I can tell you one that I want, because I'm trying to figure out when y'all can connect with Instagram, because like I said, I know y'all are on Facebook and a number of others, but you're not on the Instagram yet. So definitely, if you would share, folks, about StreamYard, your involvement with it, and I would love to learn more about how you became involved with this great tool that a lot of us are using in the media, because I've even seen some of our big anchors like ABC and others that have been using this platform.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Well, first off, thanks so much for having me on your show. I love seeing different ways people are using the tool, and it's so fun to join people in their StreamYard streams to talk about StreamYard. So I'm Dana Benz. I'm the head of marketing at StreamYard. So my role is a lot of social media, a lot of digital marketing. I work really closely with the developers to help them build the right features, to add the right things to the product, to make it better, to add the things that you're wanting. And so that's my role here. And for those of you who don't know what StreamYard is, you can see it here, what it is. It's a live streaming tool that just allows you to make your live streams a lot more professional. You can add neat features, like you can add guests just like you did. You can add cool backgrounds, like you can change this black area to a color. You can add your own logo, things like that, to make your live streams just a lot more dynamic and more professional. So that's what StreamYard is. It's a really easy to use live streaming tool. And that's basically what we're known for, is the easiest tool to go live. So it's really easy to sign up. It's really easy to stream to whichever platforms you stream to, or to multi-stream, which is one of people's favorite things about StreamYard. And then, so I've been head of marketing here. I'm going on about a year or so being with the company, so pretty new, but also StreamYard isn't that old. I think the very first live stream done on StreamYard was in October of 2018. So they're still a pretty new company, but like you said, we're growing as fast as we can. We're adding as many features as we possibly can. But Instagram's one that we're still waiting for Instagram to let us add. So for those who don't know what's up with Instagram and StreamYard, right now Instagram makes you go live with the actual Instagram app. So they want you to stay on their platform, which makes sense. They want you to use their app. But as soon as they allow third-party tools to live stream to Instagram, that's just as soon as we can add it.
Okay. And I know a number of folks are really enjoying it. We do a show called Gamers Den, and one of the platforms that y'all air on is Twitch, which I know is a big gamers platform. So I know Toby, who's one of our hosts for that, he loves that y'all are on Twitch. I still have not figured out Twitch, because I think that there are certain things that I think of as being more of the millennial crowd, and Twitch is one of those. Snapchat is another. So there's a couple of things.
And TikTok.
TikTok is another that I think of being more millennial. So I definitely have accounts on those, but I have not mastered them yet. So I'm trying to learn myself.
There's so many platforms, and it's like a new platform every 3 months. It seems like there's a new social media platform that's like in. So it's pretty hard to keep up, but StreamYard makes it easy to just, like, you're doing one show and then it's just being broadcasted to everywhere. Like, you can go to LinkedIn, you can go to Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Like, it hits all the big ones. But I know what you mean. Like, it's overwhelming.
Oh, yeah. it can be quite overwhelming. Now, one of the things that one of my friends wondered, and he was wondering about that, is yeah, we do stream to multiple platforms, and we use it to stream to multiple platforms. But my buddy that does the Funk Show is like, he sometimes wishes that it could just be like one link that went all the time at one time, and also he sometimes wishes that we could create a link that was strictly for the show and not have to create a change link all the time, because like we always have to do that generating code and everything. So I do know that that's two things that folks have suggested to me, is that they wish that there was a way that you could have, if particularly if you're doing one show all the time and it's the same show all the time, but you have different guests, but it was able to have one specific stream or one specific connection versus this kind of like generated one that y'all create. So that is something that I've heard a number of folks say that they would like to see from the marketing standpoint. But I don't know how y'all are coming with those ideas, or if y'all have heard that before.
That's a good feature request. So would it be like it would be the same guest link every single time, and that's the link that doesn't change?
Right.
Okay, so not the viewer link, like not the platform link.
Right.
Okay, got it. Yeah, we have gotten that feature request before, and I think that's something that we'll plan to add. We haven't added it yet because of the security aspect of it. Like when you have a brand new guest link, it's like you can't hack that because it can't like get leaked out unless one of your guests leaks it out publicly. So we like that it changes every single time, but it is like, it can get tedious. Like when you have, especially if you have a show every single day, like that's a lot to manage. If you have it once a week, then it's like, it's okay. I can make a new show. But that's really good to know. And to answer your question, how we add new features or how we decide what features to add, we have 3 pillars. We call them our pillars of business, and they're the 3 things that we like run through every feature that gets requested to us, because we love listening to our users and to our customers. Like, what do you want us to add? So we put them through these 3 questions or these 3 things. So our first pillar is ease of use. So does this feature add in the ease of use that StreamYard is? Like, how easy is StreamYard to use? Or does this feature make StreamYard easier to use? The second one is stability. So does this help the stability of our product? Like when you're going live, you can't have your live stream go down, or the platform can't be down because it's live. Like nothing can go wrong. So we take stability very seriously. And then the last one is professional streams. So does it make your stream more professional? Does it make it easier to make it professional? Does it just add that other layer of this is a well-produced live stream? So we put it through those things.
Wow, I know a number of folks are glad to see those kind of changes and everything. What have been I mentioned some that I've heard from some of my cohorts and folks, but what have been some of the changes that y'all have thought about bringing that we may look for in the next, say, weeks or the next month or things of that nature? Because I'm sure that y'all are constantly getting ideas of things that folks would like to see added. So what are some things that we can look for in the near future? Because I'm sure a number of our listeners are using StreamYard or thinking about using StreamYard. So what are some of the features that we can expect to see, say, before the end of the year?
Well, before the end of the year, that gives us a long time, because we kind of plan things out kind of a month in advance. We're like, what's going to be the next thing, like 1 month at a time. And we just recently have come out with quite a few big features. And so the next things that are coming that I can think of off the top of my head, I know we plan on adding stereo audio in the near-ish future, and that's really big for musicians. So if you don't know what stereo audio is, it's not mono audio. So it's not the same thing coming in through your speakers. It's I don't really know how to describe it, but it's like now you can have 2 headphones and be listening to the song in both headphones. So it just increases like the quality and the music experience of stereo audio is just so much better. So I know we do plan on adding that, which our musician users have been dying for, like ever since we all went into lockdown. All musicians are now using StreamYard to produce their shows, to sing their songs, to even write new songs, just to stay in touch with their audience. So that's been a big one. But other than that, the biggest feature that we recently added, which you probably know about already, is the 1080p HD quality, which is just the resolution of the camera quality and the screen. So that was a big one that we were working on for a long time, and that was really highly requested. But another one I can think of off the top of my head, I'm not sure how soon this one's coming, but our podcast users want separate audio tracks. So
Right.
like I can download your audio track and my audio track and Eric's audio track, and they can all be separate files, so I can mix and match them and I can edit them, and it can sound great. So we do plan on adding that as well. Right now it's just you just get one file of everyone's audio all in one MP3, which isn't the best if you wanted to like mute Eric out while you and I are talking, or you mute me out while there's like a car driving by when you're talking. So that's another one we plan on adding.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because actually I do 2 shows for IBM.TV on Monday. This one, which we call Mullins Music and Memories and everything. And then I do one called The Radio Show with Mark Lee and everything. But when I had my guest on the first show, the 2 o'clock show, I did have, because I am in my apartment complex, the lawnmower guy going by, and at some point the lady was like, my guest was like, "Is that me or is that you?" And I'm like, "Nope, it's me. It's not StreamYard. It's not anybody else. It's my fault, and I don't have anything I can do about it other than
there's nothing you can do. You just keep talking, and it's like we're all at home anyway. So it's like there's fire trucks going by someone's house, and there's dogs barking in someone else's house. It's like that's just what's happening to everyone.
Right. That's totally what's happening and everything. I forgot to ask exactly, because I think the company is California based, if I remember correctly. Is that,
It's in Oregon, actually, right above California.
Right above. Yeah. So have y'all been dealing with the wildfires as well? Because I know that a lot of that was in the West Coast. Was Oregon hit as well?
It was, yeah. It's been hit pretty bad. And so as far as I know, our office was about 10 minutes from what they called a level 1 evacuation level, which just meant get ready to be evacuated, but we didn't have to evacuate, thank goodness. So, but the fires are pretty bad here, but they've been kind of contained. So right now they're not spreading as far as I know. They've kind of just been contained, even though they're still going. And the smoke here is just so bad. They warn everyone, like, stay inside. Which has been it's been so sad. Like there's just been so much damage all up the West Coast.
Right. And how is things going in terms of Oregon, in terms of the coronavirus? Because I know it's hitting all the country, but how have y'all been doing in that regards as well?
You know, it's kind of been going up and down. So there's like all of a sudden there's like new cases, and then we get better, and we go up, then we go down. It doesn't seem like it's getting better. Like we're all still in lockdown. No one's going anywhere. The grocery stores are open and the restaurants are open, and that's about it. So I think that's how we're trying to keep it under locks, but there's still so many new cases every day.
Wow, yeah, a lot of new cases. And by the way, we do have a gentleman that listens all the time, artist Savvy Jackson. So he was just saying right below Washington, he lives over there in the state of Washington. And as he put it, it's a heck of smoky out there. So he was concerned about the smoke and was observing some of the things that you were saying. And he's actually involved in the music community. So I do know that he's involved in the music community and all of that. So definitely glad to see that. In terms of like, because you're a woman in the tech field, how are women doing in the tech field, particularly in what StreamYard is all about? So like I said, you are a woman in this field. So how are you doing in that regards?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know if I've been asked that before. Well, I mean, in terms of, if you're asking about women working at StreamYard, I mean, StreamYard loves us. StreamYard loves us women, I think, because we are so, I don't want to say better at marketing StreamYard's product, but I find that we're more excited about it. Like it's easier for us to, I don't know if it's being on TV comes more natural, or we're more excited to market StreamYard as a product. But yeah, so I think 70% of the people that work at StreamYard are women, which is really neat. It's neat for us to say that. But we are still a relatively small company numbers wise. Like the amount of people who work here, we're pretty small, even though our user base, our user count is so big. But yeah, in regards to women in tech, like StreamYard's the place to be if you're a woman in tech.
And how is it for women in tech in general? Because like I said, one of our founders of IBM.TV is Kimberly Calhoun, and she's actually got an engineering background along with Nick Palvedo, who's more of a lawyer. As a matter of fact, I've got Kimberly with me right now. So Kimberly has joined our conversation. Kimberly,
Nice.
meet Dana. Dana
Hello.
is the head of marketing for StreamYard. So I was telling us how much we love StreamYard here in this area. So definitely, I was also sharing about, we were talking to Dana about women in tech, and she was saying that StreamYard is loved by, loves the women in the tech. So I was also saying that you are a woman founder of a business, being one of the founders of IBM.TV. So, well, I'm going to turn it over to you, Kim. Why don't you tell Dana what IBM.TV is?
Well, hello, Dana, and welcome, and thank you for joining Mark on our radio talk show, the only radio talk show on TV, right? Anyway, I'm Kim Calhoun. I am the senior executive producer and co-founder of IBM TV. We are a unique programming platform so that the viewers can dial in and text with us, just like you do on social media. But also, we are providing distribution and airtime to good content that doesn't get it on the normal networks. Nick and I have been part of the normal networks for a couple years now, 4 years, I think it was, that we started a TV show. And we were with PBS, it was Money Masters PBS, and then we were with working with CBS to see where to go. And it was just a challenge. It was very difficult to work with the big networks. And we saw a change happening with technology. My background is 40 years of engineering. And I have an invention right now that the patent has just passed that I'm going to hope to push through in the next year or two.
Wow.
Law enforcement. But the thing is Nick and I go, we can own our own network and utilize streaming and provide good quality content, like filter out, because there's just, YouTube is just full of a lot of content. But filter out the smart content. That's what we want. And we were at the time filming a mini series with IBM themselves. And in the realm of it all, the agreement to utilize what we were utilizing at the time when we legally acquired IBM TV was we had to keep it clean, green, informational, and educational. No porn, no profanity, right? Family quality. Well, yeah. Nick and I are like that, so that's easy. But we want to make it educational and entertaining, right? So that's what IBM TV is all about. We are non-for-profit. We are migrating towards a profit organization. We're going to be raising funds to expand and grow with. So we're all, but I will tell you this, we started using StreamYard. I started out using Zoom, and it was very difficult and complicated, although I've used Zoom for quite some time. And there are some things I like about Zoom, but I started using StreamYard with our first ever TV show called Walter Football, which led us into working with the NFL and some of the Super Bowl projects.
Wow.
But, yeah, it was very exciting. And but he said, Kim, let's try StreamYard. And I don't know StreamYard, but sure. So I contacted you guys. You were very friendly. I said, look, this is what I'm trying to do and I need help. And I'm just no threshold of time whatsoever to learn anything. Can you work with me? You guys have got the best customer support ever.
Wow. Thank you, Kim.
I'm going to tell the world I could be live on the show and texting somebody and they go, we got it. We'll fix it. We'll help you out. And they'll troubleshoot with you live. Well, you just don't get that just anywhere. Everybody's got these chat helps. Yeah. I've spoke with your people before. I mean, it's just great. I mean, you just don't see this kind of good customer support anymore. So Dana, wow. Kudos.
Wow. Thank you so much. And I would just want to give a shout out to my customer support team because that's their job. And I'm so happy to hear that they're fulfilling the role so well and achieving their goals because yeah, that's what like customer support and customer success is such a it's such an important part to us that we feel like other companies don't take as seriously as we might take it. And so that's so good to hear that that's coming through to you as a customer.
So customer support means everything to me. I'm an engineer for 40 years for some of the world's biggest companies and in telecom. And we had a 3-minute rule of, having a network up in 3 minutes. We were the equipment providers, right? So we could not allow any telephone network to be down in anywhere in 3 minutes. And you learn to be quick, you learn to be prompt. I mean, our customers were multi-million-dollar customers. But you guys treat us like we're multi-million-dollar customers. Like, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, and to me, that's, 10 stars for a business. We've not gone to anyone else since. We have actually converted people from GoToMeeting platform to StreamYard.
That's awesome. That's so good to hear. Well, and I think the live chat, our live chat is what you're talking about, like how you can reach our customer support rep.
Having issues? Yes.
Yep. So you're just in there and we think it's so like we put that there and we hired enough people to have a 1-minute response time because when you're live, if you're having issues, you need someone there to help you. Like it's so stressful to be live and to not have your camera working or to have something with your mic going on. And so that's why we love our customer support. We love how easy access they are to help you.
So, and I'll tell you how great it was. We were filming live some world famous NFL players, right? And I'm in Miami and, things aren't working right. Boom. And the guy's going, wow, you got help that fast?
That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, we were doing it live while we were doing the interviews and the guys were watching. So anyway, but, thank you. I hope that you come visit us on our other talk shows. If you don't mind me asking, Mark, I would love to talk to you on a marketing level. So I'll give you my email just to give me a shout out sometime because I would like to talk to you on some other things. While I'm here, I want to say hi to Eric. What an honor. Eric. I have not read your book yet. I have not read your book yet, but I'm
it's an honor to be invited. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's an honor to be invited to learn.
The book sounds very, very interesting. We have an author that comes on our show weekly. He's a tax expert, but he literally wrote, I think, the first book about Trump when Trump won the presidency. He already had the book making, but he's written a lot of books about Trump. He and one of the best sellers, New York Times. Up here, he's a prize author as well. But Trump is his favorite subject matter. He's been following Trump for 40 years. But I'm gonna check that book out. I hope that I get it signed and everything. What's the topic today?
Repeat that again. I can hear that. It's called the book. It's called Trump, the Colossal Poison. That's the main title. It has two subtitles, but the main title is Trump, the Colossal Poison. And definitely, you'll have a signed copy. We can work that out.
Thank you.
Nice.
As a matter of fact, just to let you know, we are actually, Eric told me this when we did our pre-interview, and correct me if I'm not because I'm letting Kim know this, because we got another major coup. We are the first interview of this book anywhere. So even though the book has been out and it's about Trump, we are the first interview ever. So it's been on StreamYard and it's been here on IBM.TV. So both of us can claim the first interview with this book about Trump. And he has told me that he's going to put some stuff in the forward of the next edition, acknowledging the fact that we were the first one. So Eric has already promised me that, and I'll make sure that Kim gets mentioned and that StreamYard gets mentioned as well. Nice. So he is.
Wow! Thank you. What an honor. That's awesome.
Yeah, we got to support each other nowadays, right? And small businesses have taken a big hit in this crisis. And that's one of the things that I am really trying to promote. I mean, I've always tried to promote keeping jobs and trying to find ways to find more jobs for people. And this has been the toughest year ever. And I think we need to unite. We got a little sign language on IBM TV, right? Globally connect, right? Send our love to everyone, right? And then, as always, keep the peace, namaste. But
Absolutely.
But then we pick up some other sign language from people. I'm vice chair at North Carolina State University Science Department. So
nice.
But anyway, so I just think that uniting everyone together, sharing the positive impacts that we're trying to do for each other. This is what I tell someone: we don't have to agree, right?
Right.
If we all agreed, it'd be a very boring place. But the one thing we can probably all associate with each other is that we all want quality of life, right? We all want happiness. It might be different for everybody else, but quality of life as well, right? And we need to work together to do that. And even if we don't agree, somewhere there's got to be some common ground where we can unite together to bring the peace that we need right now during this crisis, so that we can focus on getting better and healing our countries, not just to the U.S., but healing our countries and healing the globe. We are doing International Day of Peace on 21st. I hope everyone joins us from 4 to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have open mic where people can dial in all day and say hi. And then we were voted by the United Nations to be their host. So United Nations selected us to so join us. I don't want me to take the mic away from Mark, but I just want to make sure that message is out there.
I definitely appreciate those messages. And actually, I'm going to do something a little out of norm for us because we usually save these for the end. But since we've got the StreamYard lady here, I was going to actually share a little bit of the announcements that we have created that we air using the platform. So one of them that I'll air later on at the end of the show, but we have this lovely lady, which is the daughter of one of our producers, who gives us a little bit of tips on what to do with what's all going on with the coronavirus. So I'm going to bring the ambassador up early. I'll bring her back up later, but I did want Dana to see some of the things that we are doing using their platform. So I'm going to bring up the ambassador as well as American Politics, which Bill Tresvant just did in his first show yesterday. But check this out, Dana. This is some of the things that we're doing here using your platform.
कोरोना वायरस से कैसे बचेंगे? ओके, हैंड होकर और ऐसे अपने खांसी जब आएगी तो ऐसे करेंगे अच्छू अच्छू और कोरोना वायरस को धन्यवाद हमारा म्यूजिक सुनने का.
And then that's a great one. We love that one. And then we also have my friend Zach's funk show that And last but not least, I wanted to share this one about American politics that my good friend and Kim's good friend, Bill Tresvant, does. And I know Dana's over there and work in Oregon, and she told me that I could have about 30 or 45 minutes. So I did want to share with you some of those things that we're doing using your platform and everything. And sometimes we also have to get very creative. So we'll share this story with you. Y'all use overlays and things of that nature to show pictures. So like we'll show the lion and a couple of other things. But I had it was actually one of Zach's other shows, but he wanted to show some photographs, and we didn't necessarily want to show them as an overlay. Fortunately, I remembered that I had a Flickr account, so I created a photo album and we did it as a shared screen. So it almost looked as if it was a regular photo thing as opposed to the overlay, which covers the guests. Because that's kind of what the dilemma was that me and Zach were having, because we were Zach saying, I know you want me to show these pictures of this funk royalty because there were some people that were connected to Parliament and Funkadelic, but I know you don't want the picture over their screen and over their face. So, like I said, I did some quick thinking and did some quick engineering. So that's the solution I came up with. Was using
that's a great idea. And then you can have a whole slideshow to show multiple.
That's what I did.
Smart. That's so smart. And I love that intro video. All the videos that you just showed, they're so well produced.
Oh, we're getting better. So something you need to understand is we actually started IBM TV. Like, even though we started a TV show a year ago, we actually kicked off IBM TV World News when COVID started back in March, when we shut down and locked down. Our board of advisors were just so informational about them. We were learning so much from them. So two of us, Ankit and I, said, hey, let's get this news out there to the world. So then we lined up doctors from all over the world. And so they were coming on our show every day, these doctors. So it was only supposed to be an hour a day. It grew to 4 hours a day, 7 days a week. So then, I know, it was exhausting, but we felt energized. I mean, the people that were coming, doctors from Yale, famous doctors from India, the international doctor of infectious disease for travel. I mean, all of these doctors were coming on weekly, daily to share information. Then we decided, let's kind of get off of the COVID and do some other things. Today, since March 7th to today, we are now airing 53 TV shows.
Wow.
53 TV shows. And we are airing generally from 2 a.m. in the morning until 10 p.m. at night, different shows. We're trying to fill airtime slots of good quality content. We're not just taking anybody. But IBM TV has grown that much. That's a lot of shows. And we still have 4 hours a day, right?
Wow.
And then Mark comes in and he does fillers for us, and he joins panel talks with us. So we have crossovers with our IBM TV family. But to see a network grow that fast, that's a lot of shows that fast. And we're adding 3 new shows a week moving forward. We have a template down of, how we work with people, and we've got the pipeline full. 3 new shows a week. We're hoping to hit over 100 shows by the end of the year. So,
wow. Well, congratulations on the growth.
Well, I just don't want to add to you as we keep going, because as you see, Mark uses StreamYard. We're trying to teach everybody else who uses other platforms to convert over to StreamYard. So
that's awesome. So is all the is it all live content?
Majority of it is, yes.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah,
and it's live content from around the globe. I showed you some of the clips and everything, but we have Alexandria May, who does a program out of South Africa, and I believe she uses StreamYard as well, if I remember correctly. So Alexandria May does it. There is a couple of, like Kim said, panelists that are not necessarily having shows right now, but we're talking about them about doing shows. So Ben Coates is a media person out of England, and he comes on regularly. We've got some folks out of Malaysia that have shows.
No
one
kidding.
of the doctors that she was talking about, who comes on our Medical Fridays, was actually involved in one of those historical separations of the Siamese twins. So Dr. Tula was actually one of those doctors involved in the separation of those Siamese twins. And he's one of our regular doctors that comes on all the time. So there are a number of folks. I just highlighted a few of them. Sasha, who is a master of chess, but also a master of investment, lives in Canada, but is originally from Russia, is doing a couple of programs, if I remember correctly, Kim. So he's doing like me. He's doing more than one. So we've got amazing folks, and they're from throughout the area. A show that me and Kim are big time fans of is a show called Talking Upstream, and it's literally some guys that are going your way. They're out in that general area of Colorado, as where they are. They're in Denver, so they're in that general west area, and they are basically creating TV shows and sitcoms and everything else. But you are watching them go through the process, so they are literally whiteboarding the process. So we are watching them whiteboard
and
the creation.
Some ideas, like, so Mark and I think we're like, we like it so much. We're like, we could write our own show, but hey, how about this? You know, but I actually watch a lot of our shows, even though I'm busy working and on a lot of shows. I do enjoy watching and just kind of, you know, supporting them, right? But I text these guys are hilarious. They're whiteboarding and creating TV shows, miniseries, sitcoms, and they're just and it is so, to me, smart, right? To watch this happen. It's just it's worth it to sit back and chill out and have a drink on Sunday, you know, your favorite ice drink on the back porch and watching these guys create a show.
Yeah, I know, what a great show idea.
Yeah,
it is, right?
It's an amazing show and idea. Just so y'all know, and I love StreamYard, and I know that I've got some friends on other platforms as well. I'm friends with, as you know, Dana, Srinivasa, who uses StreamYard as well. So I'm friends with him. But like Sri has the trolls have just invaded right now. So I was actually watching the comments, and one of the trolls is over there saying that we're anti-humanism and that they don't like blues radio. Well, they'll get over it. I still like my blues.
Oh. Everyone's got trolls.
Everybody's got trolls. The trolls are the trolls.
You know what? That's called my fan club.
Yeah.
Just another part of the fan club. Dana, and I'm so glad you were able to join me and everything. And I don't know how long you can stick around with me and everything, because I do know you're at work, so I don't know how long you can stick around. But as long as you can, I would greatly appreciate it. But how did you get involved in this whole marketing world and with StreamYard? Like, what is your own background? That is one of the things I'd like to know. I'm sure some of our listeners would like to know that as well. So definitely share with me what your thoughts are.
Yeah. So let's see. My background has always been in marketing. I used to be in marketing for real estate, though. So I sold houses. I was in sales, and then I was in marketing for houses, basically. And I had actually created a live stream show. This was like 2 years ago now. I created a live stream show where I interviewed other people in the real estate industry. So I interviewed mortgage brokers live, and I interviewed other real estate agents from around the world. And I used StreamYard for that show as well. And I just loved it because it made my interviews so professional. And I had people DMing me and reaching out to me being like, Dana, do you have a production team that helps you with this? Like, can I inquire to be on your team? Like, I want to do this too. And I was like, nope, it's just me running this StreamYard show. Like, it's just me. Yep. Kim's like, yeah, it's just easy. You know, you can like add your backgrounds and you can add your guests. It's just that easy to do. And so I kind of fell in love with StreamYard at that point. And I was lucky enough to know one of the co-founders of StreamYard. And so we had always kept in touch ever since I started using the product. And I really wanted to make the transition out of real estate and into the tech industry. And I felt like StreamYard was like the best way to do that. And I just believed so much in the mission of StreamYard, like to make live streaming so easy for people. That I was just like, yes, like the moment an opportunity came up in the company, I was like, yes, like that's totally for me. I was so interested. And it's been, I mean, I think I just got lucky being able to work for StreamYard at such a critical time in the live streaming industry. Like all of a sudden in the last 6 months, everyone and their moms have a live stream show.
Right?
So
like
yeah,
exactly.
wow. Great
Exactly.
background and everything. Could you tell us a little bit about the owners? Like I said, you're friends with them. I've read a little bit
Yeah.
about their history, but if you could just tell us a little bit about how they came about, because they are relatively young in the game and everything. And I know Facebook started
They
when they
are.
were young as
They
well,
are.
and of course they're not young now. But tell us a little bit about how they came up with this concept.
Yeah, so the two co-founders are Gage and Dan, and they went to the University of Victoria in Canada together. And that was, I don't know, 8 years ago or something, 6 years ago. And then out of school, they had worked together in school. They did kind of like projects and things like that. They became really good friends at university. And then they just kind of stayed in touch, and they're like, we don't really like our jobs, like the jobs that they had right out of school and internships. They were just not having fun. And they were like, wouldn't it be crazy to start a company together? Like, could we figure this out? And so they ended up starting another company, not StreamYard. It was more of a meeting tool. So it still was us having an interview, like it was an interview tool, but it wasn't for streaming. It was just for meeting, kind of like Zoom, but a little bit different. So they started that, and it was okay. You know, it was fun for them, but they were just like, this isn't it. Like, it didn't click. And so they were like, you know what? What they found at that company was a lot of people wanted to stream those meetings live. Like, they wanted to take our interview of 4 people like we're doing, and they wanted to get it out to all the platforms. And so they were like, let's do it. Like, let's build that product. So they shut that other company down, and they started StreamYard to be an interview tool that gives you the opportunity to put your interviews live. So all of the other features kind of came around that, like adding all the neat backgrounds and showing all those videos that you showed. All of that kind of came after the core interview, easy to use tool. And so that's when they built StreamYard 2 years ago. We're coming up on 2 years anniversary of the first live stream on StreamYard, which is so neat that it's such a new tool. But that's them. They're still running the company, just the two of them. And of course now we have a bigger team. But it was just the two of them for the longest time.
Wow, it sounds like they were doing some great things. Well, we do have fun with some of the things that go on. I was complaining about the overlay with the photo album, but just to let you know, Dana, we do sometimes have fun because we will pop this guy up every once in a while just to mess with folks. So we do have fun with what's going on. So we have popped the lion out there, and we popped
awesome.
the other lion up there as well.
Oh my gosh.
We have had fun with some of the tools.
I got this. There you go. I'm usually on the other side, so you gotta learn how to do your left and right. Here.
Yeah, exactly. It's opposite.
We learned up and down is easy. Nick and I, we always high fives, and
that's funny. That's so funny.
We do high fives. We fly airplanes at each other, and catch them on the other side.
Oh my gosh, that's
so there's
fun.
a lot of fun that goes on with what's going on, and that reminds me, we've got that event going on and everything. World Peace Day. I actually did that with our earlier show and everything. So I'm going to get both of y'all. And like I said, I don't know how long I've got you, Dana. Like I said, we got another while to go, but I know you're at work over there in Oregon. But before you leave work, we do have World Peace Day. So I would love to hear your reflections on what peace means to you. And maybe we'll find a way to clip it out of this show. But I would love to hear your reflections as to what peace means to you.
What does peace mean to me? That's a good question. That's a big question. You know, I think of peace, and I think of like the most happy you can be is like that's what true peace is. Like being at peace with the world or with your relationships or at peace at work is just having like you're happy with everything. I feel like that is what being at peace means to me, and that's what being at peace means like in my heart.
That's true.
That's very true. That is very beautiful, and I think a lot of people will have that thought because I know the guest that I had on the morning with the earlier show was one that dealt with grief, but they had a very similar message. Their message was that peace is actually you have to be at peace with yourself before you can even have world peace. So you have to be at peace with yourself in order to even contemplate world peace. So that's what Crystal said, because that's
So
how she
true.
feels about peace and all of that.
Mhm.
I'm not going to leave Eric out. Eric, what
Oh,
does peace mean to you? So I'd love to hear to you what peace means to you.
Yeah, well, I went to Morehouse, so my heroes Martin Luther King and John Lewis. Those people, those individuals, they're definitely my heroes. And peace, well, peace, like you said, first and foremost to yourself, being at peace with yourself, and trying to find your path and way, your connection with God, connection with the community, to be peaceful with other people. I think as you guys were saying before that you can respectfully disagree and find common ground, and we can move forward that everybody can benefit and reach their objective and goal that's positive for them and their family and for the community at large.
No, we definitely agree
I
with
think
that. That
that's
was very
good.
powerful. Those are powerful messages. We're going to have to find a way to get both of those out into our clips, Kim, because those were very powerful what they said.
Yep. We'll see if Brandon can help out. We have, I kid you not, just in the past few weeks have added on more people to our team, all without funding. This has all been organically grown. Again, when Ankit and I said, well, let's just do it, because we were going to raise money and then launch IBM TV, but instead we're like, there's so much information we can share with the world. When we had Dr. Tula, speaking of Dr. Tula, we had Dr. Tula on. I get a message from somebody in Afghanistan that I don't even know, right? And he's apparently watching our show. And he goes, are you this Kim Calhoun? I go, yes, I am. He goes, and that's Dr. Tula? And I go, yeah. He goes, how do you know Dr. Tula? And I go, how do you know him in Afghanistan? He's from India. So what a world, right? And he told me, that he is so famous in his country because he comes over and helps them with so many things in their country. So I just, it was this to me, right? That we were uniting everybody, and it just feels so good. And I think we can continue growing. Mark loves it. He gets all excited. Like, he'll text us if he can't be on the show. And then as soon as he can, Mark beams in. But we have that kind of family at IBM TV, but we've just added on some new people who are helping us do post-production, or what I call pre-production, building the sizzle reels, the promos, because up until then it's just been the four of us.
Wow.
Wow.
That's pretty impressive.
Other jobs, right? So like you were saying, it was just two, but we've just added on some more people. We're hoping to raise money so we can pay people and keep this growing, because we think this is the smart TV network, right? No, the political talks that we do, it's real people interviews, right? It's no slandering, no investigative digging. It's the shows that Nick and I used to put on. This was a dream of mine a year ago, was to have a political talk show that wasn't slandering. That was just, what is your story? Who are you? What do you want to do? How can we work together to make that happen? Not that you're Democrat or Republican. I don't want to hear that noise, right? I want to hear how we can fix our country and unite with other worlds. And that's, last night was the first one to air with Dr. Bill Tresemont, who's our White House correspondent. And you know what? It was, his first one was a female candidate who ran for president, but she brought on a platform about women in politics and more women leaderships we need to know. And I learned some history from her. Like, did you know in 1972 an African American female ran for president? Yeah. How many of you knew that?
Shirley Chisholm. And there was actually a movie made about her and everything. I'm sure that Eric knows Shirley Chisholm.
But the thing is, this is stuff that needs to be talked about constantly. And here we were talking about it last night, or Bill was with his guests. But then I learned about this women program, that she's got this whole PAC organization that women can join and become part of, to help, support other women leaders in this world. And it's non-party. You could be Democrat, you could be Republican, but it doesn't matter, right? It's all about uniting. And I've learned so much. So that's what we're wanting to do. If you know of people that you can bring to the table, Dana, that's great. Eric, you too. I mean, you got a book, you could probably talk on this subject.
Well, I
So
was just thinking about that because we're talking about a book show, so we might have to get him on the book show as well. Because I know Nick has talked about wanting a book show that we're gonna have and everything. And I was actually thinking about you, Dana, when you talked about your old show. Because I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, real estate is something that's popular around the nation. So, like I said, I know you're busy
Right.
with StreamYard, but maybe you get somebody in your family or somebody that's connected to you to rebirth that
Yeah.
real estate show. Because, like I said, as you were talking
Yeah.
about the real estate streaming show, I was like, that sounds like a show that we could use on IBM.TV. So we could
Oh,
definitely
that's a
use
great
that.
idea.
So I don't know if you
Yeah.
thought about recreating that show or having some of your friends recreate it, but I think we would be. I don't want to speak for Kim, but I think we'd be open to having that conversation.
It's a
I'd love a
great
real
idea.
estate show. I'm all for unique and good quality. That's the most important thing to our programming, and also just giving good information, the right information
Yeah.
to everyone. That's one of the things that we do every morning when we do our political from the White House talk. Is we talk from both sides, and then we do some world news for around 15 minutes. I think it's good quality because we're not pandering. We're not allowing people to say this is my opinion. No, this is the news. This is what was said. This is what was done. And oh, by the way, this is what's happening in the world. So absolutely, those are the kind of shows that we're looking for. We don't have a real estate show on the table yet. That would be really cool. So
So we
Neat.
might have to bring it back into thought. Think about that, Dana, and everything. So you
Yeah.
might have to think about that. Are you originally from Oregon, or where is home originally from you? So were you
Yeah.
born in Oregon and lived in Oregon all your life?
I was born actually in California, but I moved here when I was so young that I only know Oregon.
Okay. And what is because we have a travel show as well. So if
Oh,
somebody,
cool.
whenever this thing gets done, and we'll have maybe Brandon get in touch with you. But if somebody was to come to Oregon, what would be the thing that you would recommend that they know about Oregon? Because when I think of Oregon, I think of the big cities like Portland and things of that nature. But y'all are much more
Yep.
than that. So if somebody was
Yeah.
coming to visit Oregon, other than visiting the StreamYard offices, where else could they go?
Well, visiting the StreamYard office, I don't know how fun that would be, but they could stop by. But that's such a hard question when we're all in lockdown. Like, I don't even, like, our parks aren't even open. Like, our nature, all these these beautiful nature reserves aren't even open. Like, going to there's a mountain called Mount Hood here that everyone just loves. I don't even know if it's open now. So it's so hard to say in Corona, but there's a few. I would definitely stay out if lockdown ends, if all these fires pass. There's a couple of hikes in like eastern part of Portland, Oregon, that are just like to die for. So I think that and going to Mount Hood, those are things I would recommend. But I mean, I don't know. Like, it wouldn't be fun to come here while we're all in lockdown.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Unfortunately.
Yeah,
That
and
is
that's true. A lot of folks are having to deal with that and everything along those lines. And like a lot of folks says, we're dealing with so many crises that are going on in this world, whether it's folks dealing with their
Yeah.
economy and things of that nature. Because as a small company, how are y'all surviving as a small company? Because I imagine y'all had to make some hard decisions in that regards as well.
growing.
Yep. Yeah, I know. So we fortunately we haven't had to let anyone go because we've had so many people, so many new customers during this time. But it definitely it has been hard. I mean, we've seen it in our customers, all of our customers trying to stay afloat. So yeah, it's crazy, I think, for everyone.
It is.
Yeah,
It
it's
is.
definitely crazy for everybody. We're in a crazy time with everything that things are going through, whether that's things around class, whether that's things around race, whether that's things around economy. There's just so many things that we are going through, but I'm glad to see that y'all are growing and it is a great company that is doing some amazing things. So glad that y'all are able to do that and do that on a
Yeah.
constant basis and everything.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, Dana, you're being invited to another show because Ankit just wrote us and said that
Nice.
he said hello to me, to you, and to
I
Eric,
asked
and to Kim.
her, kid, I asked her.
Had an
That's
amazing
awesome.
conversation and wants to invite you to Startup Wednesdays, which is one of the shows that we do here on a regular basis. So I will pass that information
Awesome.
on,
Oh,
and
and her
hopefully
shirt.
you
That's
can come on.
awesome.
I know
Startup.
it's about
Wow.
because there's a 3 hour difference, and Startup Wednesdays is usually first thing in the morning our time. So that might be you have to
Ooh.
get up early at that
Uh-oh.
time. So,
Oh no, you can come around, a little bit after, because in 10 to 11 we do, the White House talk, and then around 11ish is when we really start rolling with the startups and things like that. So you can come
Nice.
later. We're
That's a
working.
great idea. Wow. Well, thank you so much for having me on this show, and thank you for supporting StreamYard and telling people about StreamYard. It's so great to hear that you're such fans of the platform, and I would love to come on your show, Ankit. Thanks for shouting me out.
yep.
I invited her in, Kit. He's checking on me. He's checking.
Oh,
Check it out. There's a little bit of
nice.
politics going on and everything because, like she said, the core four of this great organization, I'm glad to be part of it, part of their board and everything else. But the core four is Ankit, who you just met, Kim, who you have now met as well, of course, Win and Nick. And by the way, Ankit is watching us, so you know that he's up late himself, but he's watching us all the way from India. So the three of
Wow.
the folks are here in the United States, but one of the main people is doing it out of India. So Ankit is out
Oh.
of New Delhi, if I remember correctly. Is that right, Kim? That it's New Delhi that he lived in?
I think so, yeah. And but he works 24/7. I don't think he knows how to sleep. When I was his age, I was the same way, but I do like my sleep now. But Ankit is the energy and wind. We couldn't do it without him. He's the Wizard of Oz behind the scenes. Nick Pelaveda and we co-founded this together. We're I would like to think that we're the business sense. I'm a little bit technology, but they're more of the technology and marketing and all of the youthful stuff. Nick and I are the old folks. But yeah, Nick, I said it. But yes, but you got to have that, right? You got to have your experience. You got to have your young. That's what startups are all about. And that's what I know we're talking about. But unfortunately, I'm going to have to dive out.
Yep. Like I said, and I think that Dana might have to leave after a while too, but I've still got more conversation with Erica.
I'm going to be listening. I
Yep.
got physical therapy, so I'm going to be listening.
Cool. Appreciate that and everything. But definitely bring Eric back. But I know you're going to bounce as well. I promised you. You promised me 30 minutes. You've already given me an hour. So I appreciate you. And as long as you can stick around,
Yeah.
that would be greatly appreciated. I did see that you put on the website where folks can find you, which is the Real Dana Bentz, as well as the YouTube website and all of that.
Yeah.
So I do
Yeah,
appreciate that. And
That's where you can
definitely
find me.
appreciate that.
But yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was so nice. I love being featured on shows that. Oh, Ankit, I have a few inputs for you, Dana. Ooh, that's good. Yep, we love to hear about all the features like we just talked about, Mark, in the beginning. But I love talking about StreamYard. I love the opportunity to see how other people are doing shows like your show, and talking to Kim is so interesting about all the shows on the network. But yeah, I'll have to jump off now, but it was so great to be featured. Thank you again for having me.
No problem. It was my pleasure to have you on the show and to have you featured. I'm going to just teach you about one thing. You were asking about the banners and whether we use them. We do use the banners as well. So like Tish, who does a show, this is actually her company. So as you'll see, you'll see that Earth Monkey Energies, and she is the lady that does Plant a Seed. So we do use the banners, and we actually use the banners for a creative purpose, because the third show that I do, because like I said, there are a number of them. I started off actually being a podcaster, because I'm a podcaster myself and have done radio for a number of years. So they reached out to me as a podcast host, and then they were like, "You're pretty good at this, so how about we give you a show?" So that was first the radio show with Mark Lee, and then now I'm doing 3 shows as well as producing some other friends' shows. But the one that we do on Wednesday is called the Online Dinner Party. And one of the things I did was I created what I call the mystery guest. And I do use overlays for that, even though I'm thinking about using the photo album now that I came up with that solution. But I give clues, though, that's like historical clues about the person and everything. So they will, during the course of a Wednesday show, see things like this running across the screen, and the goal is that they are supposed to guess who that person is and everything along those lines. So I've got to figure out who my person is going to be on this coming week, as I was telling on my other show, I know that one of the guests is going to be somebody from the Wild Wild West. I haven't decided if it's a woman or a person, I mean a male, but it will be somebody from the Wild Wild West. And I have been trying to get international guests as well. And so one of the international guests will be somebody from South Africa, I mean South America, because I haven't had anybody from South America yet. So it'll be somebody from the Wild
Cool.
Wild West and somebody from South America also. So those will be a couple of my guests that will appear. And then once they are picked and we figured out who they are and folks have an idea of who they might be, then I do use as right now that's what I'm doing. I use the overlays, and the overlays kind of appear above the screen who that person is. So like
That's a
last week
great
it
idea.
was well, the villain was John Dillinger, and nobody guessed that one. And my person that was known outside of that area, that was known kind of in the world of English politics, was Winston Churchill. And I just knew folks were going to get Winston Churchill, but nobody actually was able to figure out who Winston Churchill was or who that person was or anything. So I was a little disappointed that folks were not able to figure out Winston Churchill or Dillinger. But hopefully this week I've given them a couple of clues, and I've planned on doing the shows that I've appeared on. So definitely do things along that nature. Aiken is just way late at everything, because Aiken told me to play the intro for American politics and for the radio show and funk music, and I had already done
We
that.
already done that.
So, Aiken, like Kim said, Aiken was just a little bit behind times, but I will play those as we wrap up the show as well. But definitely glad that you were able to join me, and I do hope that you will come back on future editions of this show, as well as I'm
Yeah.
hoping that we can just keep in touch, because I'm one of those masterful
Yeah.
networkers who loves networking with people on a regular basis. So now that I've got
Yeah.
at StreamYard, I plan to like at least reach out to you on not on TuneIn, but on Instagram, Facebook, the various platforms that exist. So
Well, you
don't
know where to find me. Yeah, well, thank you again for having me on the show.
No problem.
See
It
you
was our
soon.
deep pleasure to have you on the show. And like I said, I'm sure
Thank
Anki will
you.
come up and be giving you those ideas that he's got in mind in terms of
Yeah.
regards to StreamYard. And I did share with you
Sounds good.
some that I know folks have been asking for, but we're going to be
Yeah.
looking forward to seeing the other things that you're talking about. Like I do have musician friends, so they'll be glad to hear
Right.
about that stereo stuff that y'all are doing
Right.
and a number of other things that y'all have coming up. So definitely we're looking forward to that and hearing more things
Me
that are coming
too.
your way. So
Me
definitely
too.
looking
Well,
forward to
stay
that.
tuned. Yeah,
Yep.
stay tuned to all the updates, and we actually go live on our YouTube channel once a week talking about the next upcoming features on StreamYard. So if you're super interested, you can catch us live on Sunday nights at 6 p.m. Pacific, and the co-founders go live on our YouTube channel. I think it's youtube.com/StreamYard.
Okay. And they can actually see the founders going live talking about the changes that are happening at that time on the YouTube channel. So
Yeah, they're
definitely
live,
keep
and
it
then
directed.
and they're interacting just like you're showing the comments on the screen. They're taking live questions from the audience about StreamYard, which is so fun.
It sounds great, and I'm definitely glad that you're part of their team and doing such great marketing with them. So definitely glad to meet you through the different circles that we've connected, and glad that you were able
Yeah.
to come on this show. So
Yeah,
definitely,
thank you again, Mark. It's so nice to meet you, and I'm so glad I got to come on the show.
Yep, great, cool.
Yeah.
So we're going to continue our conversation with Eric about that Trump book, and then of course I'll wrap up with some other things also. So
Bye,
definitely
you guys.
see you. All right, Eric, that was the amazing Dana talking about what's going on in her life and all of that. So definitely glad that you were able to join the conversation. So if you would, tell to our listeners about the book and also what you've got going on with the book and how the book can be found once again. Like I said, we were so busy talking about StreamYard that people may have forgotten about the book. So if you'll share with folks a little bit more about the book, we would appreciate that.
Okay, yeah. Volume's down for some reason. I don't know. I think it's my on my side, but anyway, I can hear you. Um, Dealing with the book is called Trump, the Colossal Poison. It kind of just came about due to the fact that really more so the coronavirus took place, so that kind of slowed things down and just gave me a lot of time to reflect and also to write. I was always already started in November, but I was able to accelerate on the and get the book done due to the fact basically of coronavirus. And you can get the book again on Amazon. And yeah, again, like I said, the you can just put in I think Trump the colossal poison. I got a lot of people that's been getting it, and yeah, it's for everybody. It's not uh, just for Democrats. It's not just for independents. Just for Republicans. It's for everybody to kind of hear the facts, hear what's going on, and just have the information. And from there, just kind of like in the Bible, it talks about wisdom. That's the principal thing. Knowledge, knowledge yields on riches, but it just gives you more information to make your decision on who you want to vote for, and you can decide to vote for whoever you want to in our great country. But it just gives you more information to analyze and see what's the best choice.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and folks do need that kind of information, learning what people's real stands are and how they feel about different issues. And it sounds like you've been doing a great job of the research so that folks can find out what that message is and how they can learn more about these candidates and all of that. So definitely appreciate you having that and sharing your wisdom that you've learned and everything. So there's a lot of issues, like I said, are out there that a lot of people are pressed about and that they're thinking about. I mean, we didn't even touch about it, but what have been your thoughts about how the administration is currently handling the environment? We were talking about the fires, whether that's over there in California or in Oregon or in other parts of the world. But how are you feeling that the government in general and the world in general is handling our environmental things?
Okay. I'll put it this way. I used to live in San Francisco, and I have a friend that lives in San Francisco and a friend that lives in Nevada. I don't think it's hitting Nevada. It's basically hitting, it may be now hitting Nevada, but it's California, Oregon, Colorado, and Washington State. I'll put it this way. There's a difference of opinion of how government is supposed to manage a situation like that. Trump's opinion that we gathered is basically it's the state's responsibility, and if there's an all completely blown emergency to come out, and I think now he's coming out. My opinion would be that it would have been very beneficial if he would have came out a little bit early on, but his stance I think has been to federal government hands off and the state and local government hands on. I think people on the other side of the fence of opinion, they view that the federal government does play a part if there's a disaster or a situation that takes place, that the federal government comes in and helps and assists financially and manpower and equipment for with the state and local, and they kind of go in concert. So it's a difference of opinion. I'm more the other side opinion that the federal government comes in and helps in a time that's very critical as now in terms of them. Now, the note too that it's been noted that I think the California governor, just to kind of give you a sense, said on the television that to go outside in certain areas of California, it's equivalent to being exposed to smoking 20 cigarettes. So it's a very it's a very critical and serious occurrence that's taking place. So it's two sides of government. That's the way that I put it. I'm more on the side that the federal government kind of helps out a little bit more and gets in quicker to handle the situation. Again, I said Trump's situation opinion is to stay hands off and at the last moment come in and intervene. So that kind of gives you an idea. That's my thoughts on it.
Gotcha. And what about small business? We got so many small businesses that are going on, and I'm afraid that not enough folks are paying attention to small business. So, what are your thoughts as to how the government is handling small business with all that's going on with the virus, and how a lot of the businesses are facing collapse? I know I've heard statistics that we may lose some ridiculous amount of restaurants that are existing around the country. So, how do you think we're doing in terms of reaching out and helping the small business owners?
I think again that's I kind of want to allude to kind of how you think that you're directing how you're feeling. I feel that you're in the same going in the same direction that I'm going in. Is that this that we need to find funds that can give these put some regulations on it or some requirements on it, but give these guys the financial support that they need, maybe with some regulations to make sure people is being conducted right, being managed right. But that kind of gives them a lifeline to make it through at least, let's say, maybe February or March of next year, and also to to really assist them, and not just the big corporations and stuff like that. That everybody that's a business and that hires people and that legitimately is their business and legitimately hires people. Let's try to give them a lifeline. Who I'm also thinking too that you may be thinking about as well is the churches. They're very hard hit right now, and in some places we just now are able to go back to our church, my mother and myself. But I mean, churches, they really would need to give them a lifeline. They're not really getting, the tithes and the funds that they need. And, they're very critical to our society because they actually, provide food for the homeless and different programs that kind of help the government. So if we can really help the small businesses and the churches at religious institutions in this time of need, that's very critical, and that would be very helpful to everybody involved.
Oh yeah, I agree with you on that. And we probably need to find ways to help the farmers as well, because so many of the farmers are not getting the aid that they need as well. So what would your message be to folks that are in rural America? Because we do know that there's rural America even there in Georgia. So what would your message be to folks that are in rural America?
Yeah, one of my job titles. I'm a farmer. On this, I have various job titles. I deal with real estate in terms of collecting rent, and then I do other things as well. But they have, believe it or not, Georgia has been pretty good. They have a program to you couldn't sell your cows or whatever, that they would give you money because you couldn't come to the market. So they have provided, and believe it or not, there's money flowing through USDA that's helping in this time of need. But I think depending on what sector of business, if it's corn going to or whatever products that are going to China or overseas, those types of forms definitely probably need an extra lifeline to kind of sustain them so that during this time. And I think maybe February, March, but there's some activity that's going on to really help farmers in the state of Georgia. Georgia is, I think that's one of our biggest businesses is farming, believe it or not, in the state of Georgia, even though you see Atlanta, but outside of Atlanta, it's a whole different world. But those farm industries where they're going overseas right now to get to trade, and they can't trade right now, we definitely want to, if we can, get a extra lifeline for them and support those industries.
Oh yeah, you definitely got to support those industries. You were also talking about in Atlanta, and I know Atlanta is known a lot for its arts. I'm a big fan of the arts. Of course, there's a really rich film community there with folks like Tyler Perry and others, and TV shows, and of course, there's the music industry down there. So, and I know that you're a songwriter in addition to some of the other things that you've done. So, could you talk to us a little bit about how the arts are being impacted by what's going on with the coronavirus and Black Lives Matter and some of the other things that are going on that I'm sure are impacting what's happening down there in terms of how folks are able to perform or if they're even able to get out. So if you could talk about that in terms of how the film industry is doing and the music industry, because I know those are two very important elements of Atlanta and Georgia's entertainment community.
Right. Those are very huge industries, especially in our more metropolitan areas, especially Atlanta and probably Savannah. Um, well, like I said, I'm a songwriter, and I went and I was able to meet with Macy Gray and her management, and I was supposed to give her a song. But what happened is, producer I worked with, I actually wrote a great song, but we really couldn't record it because of the fear. A lot of the studios are closed down, and even the producers' home studios. We're talking about the guys that create the music, of course. Music producer. Um, just everybody's fearful, so we're not really getting. I'm unable to get that music, to which could be a great song that fits Macy Gray. It's kind of postponed on hold. So that's what okay, well, I can't do music, so I'm a creative person. Let me write a book. It kind of, let's double down on the book. That's kind of what took place. But the music industry is severely hurt. I mean, there's a venue down there, the winery or whatever, City Winery, where a lot of great acts come to. And I definitely recommend when it gets better that you get a chance to come down. It's a very sophisticated venue, and that you would definitely love. You and your friends, family. Is very sophisticated, very nice. I go to it a lot, and I actually meet a lot of artists. And I met Macy Gray there. But that's kind of shut down because of the numbers of individuals that can come in, and you can't, you can't get close together. Again, I'm a songwriter, so I can only assume in the film industry that you deal with music in terms of scores, and you deal with music in terms of placing music in songs. I mean, placing music in the film in certain area, certain parts of the film. I think the film industry is kind of, I don't really know, but I'm assuming that it would be suffering. But I can speak to the professional music side of things, that it's pretty much at a standstill. You may have, artists that have studios at home, people that they cherish and trust, and that they feel comfortable that they're still making music. But the mass amount of talent, professional and unprofessional talent, and connected and unconnected talent, it's kind of at a slow down. And I think everybody's waiting to next year to see what happens, and hopefully it can come back alive again.
Yeah, definitely got to get back so things can come back alive and folks can have that experience of going back to concerts and movie theaters and things of that nature. I know here they're starting to do drive-by theaters and starting to do other kinds of ways of getting folks engaged with entertainment. So I know the restaurants are suffering, as are the movie theaters and a number of other parts of the entertainment community. So I'm with you that we need to see more of these things, trying to find ways to survive, because a lot of them are in some very hard times. Now, the kind of music that you do, is it gospel songs that you were given to Macy Gray? Is it more neo soul, or is it more
It's gonna
like
be more pop. No, pop. I'm sorry. Just to answer your question, make sure I answer your question. I do R&B, and I do pop. Those are my two areas, and I like old school pop. I think more so than ever. Old school R&B. I can do, maybe a rap song, and I can do that type of stuff. But what I cherish the most is probably, they call it adult R&B or traditional R&B. I kind of like that sound. I can go with the new R&B too. I can do that, and I deal with pop music as well. So yeah, those are my areas.
Gotcha. And who are some of the folks that influenced you, both in terms of your writing with the book as well as your music? So, and it could even be folks in your family, but who are some of the folks that have influenced you in your various careers?
Well, my main mentor, he passed away. It's very sad. A Jewish gentleman from New York that wrote for Twisted Sister. was like a manager first when I was in New York. I ended up being the manager, and he actually came and stayed with me. Music guys sometimes they have a real hard time. They're more in the if I'm both business and music. That's who I am. But you have those that are completely music type. So sometimes they run into tight time. So he came and stayed with me for a while, and then he was able to move back on his feet a little bit more. And I really learned songwriting from him. And then I look at Sam Cooke. I had to go back. Sam Cooke, the Beatles, Marvin Gaye. Um, uh, um, I mean, just a lot of the oldies, but goodies. I can't remember the guys, a black gentleman that wrote songs for Elvis Presley, Blackwell. You might want to look him up, but a lot of people don't know about him. But by the way, that guy actually wrote. He wrote. I forgot that it's a huge song. But maybe I remember there's another time. But Chuck Berry, all of these people that were phenomenal songwriters, influenced me. Different races and different genres and just enormous ability. And there's a lot of untapped ability out there that don't get recognized, and you might be surprised. I tell you, you might be a songwriter. You don't even know. It just happened. I just was around him, and I kind of learned, and then I was like, whoa, that's not bad. And people listening like, oh, that's pretty good. So we actually have other talents that we may not be aware of in terms of writing books. Books wise, it's going to be James Baldwin. Would be the person that comes to mind in terms of books, and so those are my influences.
Yep. James Baldwin was a very powerful figure, even in terms of the way that he didn't put up with a lot of nonsense, even when he was being interviewed. I know I was looking not that long ago at an interview that was with Dick Cavett and James Baldwin,
Mm-hmm.
and apparently somebody that was very much of reactionary, racist kind of environment. And James Baldwin didn't pull any punches in putting him in his place. I think it was somebody from like one of the southern states. It might have been Alabama. I don't think it was Georgia, but definitely James Baldwin put him in his place on a national TV show. Because, like I said, I don't know if you've seen that interview. There was you can find it on YouTube and some other sites, but it is definitely a very powerful interview. And if you've never seen it, you should definitely try to catch it because it definitely is an amazing interview.
Yeah. There's that I think I've seen that one. There's another one that you may want to see, and somebody's writing a book on it or something. He went to Oxford. This guy really got around. Went to Oxford, was making the book, and Buckley, whoever the white intellectual, they had a debate in Oxford, and you could have said either side won, depending on what the situation was. But James Baldwin, they gave him a standing ovation, and he actually won the debate. But it was kind of a publicity thing in order to sell a new book that James Baldwin was promoting, and he was able to get out there. And again, like I said, there's a lot of talent that doesn't get a chance to get out there that are great writers. So sometimes you really got to try to have the business orientation or our desire and movement, as well as the writing talent, to kind of get noticed, because James Baldwin definitely had that ability to spark a controversy, like you said, and then kind of, okay, well, what is James Baldwin doing? And that kind of propelled him to be an expert on race relations and things of that nature.
Yeah, no, there's not about that. As a matter of fact, I think I'm gonna try to use one of StreamYard's features, the share screen, and see if we can bring up a little bit. I don't think we have to watch all of it, but bring a little bit of that discussion where James Brown was discussing racism and all of that. So I'm going to bring that up right now, and hopefully we'll see a little bit of what James had to say.
Definitely.
See if it's going to come up and everything. Sometimes they like to be a little slow on these things, so we're going to see if we can't get it going.
near me.
He was a
Well,
great speaker, definitely a great speaker. And there's a new book.
remarks,
Let me let
um,
you.
what are the Negroes? Why aren't they optimistic? And again, I apologize and preface this by the phrase "the Negroes" because it lumps together an awful lot of people. You and Floyd McKissick and Madam Clayton Powell and Hattie McDaniel and Jackie Robinson, and it's impossible, I suppose, to. But for want of a better phrase, if you'll allow me, they say, but it's getting so much better. There are Negro mayors. There's Negroes in all of sports. There are Negroes in politics. They're even accorded the ultimate accolade of being in television commercials now. Um, I'm glad you're smiling. Is it at once getting much better and still hopeless?
Well, I don't think there's much hope for it, to tell you the truth. As long as people are using this peculiar language. It's what I was trying to convey before when I said that it's not a question of what happens to the Negro here, or to the black man here. That's a very vivid question for me, But the real question is what's going to happen to this country. I have to repeat that. Now, if Negroes, don't seem to be very optimistic, it's not because they suddenly all changed from happy, shiftless, dancing darkies down on the levee, picking all that cotton and singing praises to the master. They've not changed at all. They never were optimistic. All one's got to do is listen to Swing Low, Sweet Chariot and ask yourself what that song's about. Or try to really listen to what Ray Charles is really telling you. We have lived under these intolerable conditions for how many years? Maybe 400 years. We have evolved a certain kind of style to meet it, and a lot of that has been involved with the lies we had to tell to you, and the lies we had to tell to you, this compounds the disaster you believe because you wanted to believe it. But obviously you knew, every white man knows, that he would not himself, lying track for nothing. He would not himself allow his child to be sold from him as though the child were you. He would not himself allow himself not to have the autonomy of his own house and his own woman. He would not himself pick all that cotton and carry it to market just because he loved white people. We all know that. And the word Negro in this country really is designed finally to disguise the fact that one is talking about another man, a man like you, who wants what you want. And insofar as the American public wants to think there has been progress, they overlook one very simple thing. I don't want to be given anything by you. I just want you to leave me alone so I can do it myself. And it also overlooks another very important thing. Perhaps I don't think that this republic is a summit of human civilization. Perhaps I don't want to become like Ronald Reagan.
Wow. So you don't want to become like Ronald Reagan. You also heard him mention Floyd McKissick, who, of course, is somebody that is very known and respected around this community as well.
Oh, he definitely was a strong personality, and was quite a great debater, and definitely a high thinker and a great communicator. He had so many elements that made him that attracted both white audiences and then also black audiences and then international audience. He was definitely exceptional. Yes. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you get it? Hello? I'm kind of lost. Hello? Hello, can you hear me? Um, Something happened. Hello. Mm, no, I think we lost. Bum, 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 bum. There's something wrong.
We got the conversation going on and all of that. So
Yeah.
definitely, you were checking out a little bit of that speech that I shared and all. So definitely, I kept saying I heard Floyd McKissick's name mentioned,
Right.
as well as, of course, Ronald Reagan and a number of others that were featured in that particular speech. But as you were hearing that speech from him, what were some of your own thoughts as you were reflecting on a little bit of what he was saying?
Okay. Yeah. That, I guess to say again that th- uh, truly is a great debater. He was a great orator. He was a great communicator, and you know, had something, believe it or not, in common with Donald Trump. A great marketer that was able to attract um different, different intellectual and races of classes, uh you know American, from America to the world. So this guy was unique. He was unique, as well as a first class writer.
Oh yeah, there was definitely a first class writer and all of that. So there was no doubt about that. That he definitely had some first class kind of thoughts and all. So there's no doubt about that at all. Now, what are some of the traits that you actually found that you? Because I agree that it's been a lot of things that he did that are not very positive. But did you find any traits that you did like about the current person occupying 1600? When you were checking him out. So as you were doing your research, was there anything that you actually found that you did admire about him?
Yeah, I would say that the marketing ability, the ability to talk to the regular man, even though he's rich and to a degree and wealthy. Being able talking to the common man, and just the marketing ability. I think he's a genius and fascinating, a fascinating individual on in those parameters. But I would I'm hopeful, as I guess you would say God would be. I'm hopeful that he will be able to use it in a way that helps not just a segment, but try to help everyone. And then, you know, I think it would benefit him. He would go down. It benefit him greatly, and history would look kindly on him if he would able if he's ever able to make that turn and incorporate everyone instead of just one segment or one group or tribe or whatever you want to call it.
Yep, that makes a lot of sense. And I did find that speech that you were talking about. So I'm going to bring up at least one of them where Buckley was debating Baldwin. So you're going to bring that up right now.
Okay.
The trouble in America where the Negro community is concerned is a very complicated one.
It comes as a great shock to discover that the country, which is your birthplace and to which you owe your life and your identity, has not in its whole system of reality evolved any place for you.
On the evening of February 18th, 1965, two cultural giants, James Baldwin and William F. Buckley Jr., squared off in person for the first time. More than 50 years later, the debate still resonates. Political science professor Nicholas Bucola of Linfield College in Oregon was so taken with the skirmish that he wrote a book about it. The Fire is Upon Us.
It just seemed to me just such a dramatic moment, and such an important one. These two movements that did so much to define 20th century political history, to have these two figures clashing was just.
So that's a little bit about the book that was written there about that. Right. And I'm going to see if I can pull up a little bit of the debate as well. But that was a little bit about the book and all of that. But I do know I saw a clip, I believe, of the actual debate. It was a long debate, so I know we won't bring up the whole part, but I
Right.
will try to bring up at least part of the clips and all of that. So that's actually what I think I want to bring up right now and everything, so our listeners can learn a little bit about this great debate and how it took place and all of that. So definitely, I think this is a memory. As this particular show is called Mullins Music and Memories, and this is definitely a memory that a lot of folks should be aware of if they're not already aware of it. So I'm getting ready to bring that up, and then I'll bring up a little bit of a musical note as well. So this was actually in Cambridge, as I'm sure you're aware, but not everybody is.
Right. This is great. This is definitely great.
Who has been sitting, listening attentively, getting a wonderful reception here in the Cambridge Union. Tremendous enthusiasm from all sides of the House to Mr. Baldwin, who has been listening to the argument. Now we'll bring the voice of his experience.
Good evening. I find myself, not for the first time, in the position of a kind of Jeremiah. For example, I don't disagree with Mr. Burford that the inequality suffered by the American Negro population of the United States has hindered the American dream. Indeed, it has. I quarrel with some other things he has to say. The other deeper element of a certain awfulness I feel has to do with one's point of view. I have to put it that way. One's sense, one's system of reality. It would seem to me the proposition before the House, if I put it that way, is the American dream at the expense of the American Negro, or the American dream is at the expense of the American Negro, is a question hideously loaded, and that one's response to that question, or one's reaction to that question, has to depend on the effect on where you find yourself in the world, what your sense of reality is, what your system of reality is. That is, it depends on assumptions which we hold so deeply as to be scarcely aware of them. A white South African, or a Mississippi sharecropper, or a Mississippi sheriff, or a Frenchman driven out of Algeria, all have, at bottom, a system of reality which compels them to, for example, in the case of the French exile from Algeria, to defend French reasons for having ruled Algeria. The Mississippi or the Alabama sheriff, who really does believe when he's facing a Negro boy or girl, that this woman, this man, this child must be insane to attack the system to which he owes his entire identity. Of course, for such a person, the proposition of which we find discussed here tonight does not exist. And on the other hand, I have to speak as one of the people who've been most attacked by what we must now here call the Western or the European system of reality. What white people in the world, the white supremacy, I hate to say it here, comes from Europe. That's how it got to America. Beneath then, whatever one's reaction to this proposition is, has to be the question of whether or not civilizations can be considered as such equal, or whether one civilization has the right to overtake, and subjugate, and attack, and destroy another. Now what happens when that happens? Leaving aside all the physical facts which one can quote, leaving aside rape or murder, leaving aside the bloody catalog of oppression, which we are in one way too familiar with already. What this does to the subjugated, the most private, the most serious thing this does to the subjugated, is to destroy his sense of reality. It destroys, for example, his father's authority over him. His father can no longer tell him anything because the past has disappeared, and his father has no power in the world. This means, in the case of an American Negro, born in that glittering republic. And in the moment you are born, since you don't know any better, every stick and stone and every face is white. And since you have not yet seen a mirror, you suppose that you are too. It comes as a great shock around the age of 5 or 6 or 7 to discover that the flag to which you have pledged allegiance, along with everybody else, has not pledged allegiance to you. It comes as a great shock to discover that Gary Cooper killing off the Indians when you were rooting for Gary Cooper, that the Indians were you. It comes as a great shock to discover that the country, which is your birthplace, and to which you owe your life and your identity, has not in its whole system of reality evolved any place for you. The disaffection, the demoralization, and the gap between one person and another, only on the basis of the color of their skin, begins there and accelerates throughout a whole lifetime. To the point you realize you're 30 and are having a terrible time managing to trust your countrymen. By the time you are 30, you have been through a certain kind of mill. And the most serious effect of the mill you've been through is again not the catalog of disaster. The policemen, the taxi drivers, the waiters, the landlady, the landlord, the banks, the insurance companies, the millions of details, 24 hours of every day, which spell out to you that you are a worthless human being. It is not that. It's by that time you've begun to see it happening in your daughter or your son, or your niece or your nephew. You are 30 by now, and nothing you have done has helped you to escape the trap. But what is worse than that is that nothing you have done, and as far as you can tell, nothing you can do, will save your son or your daughter from meeting the same disaster and not impossibly coming to the same end. Now, we're speaking about consent. I suppose there's several ways to address oneself. What that word means. Let me put it this way, that from a very literal point of view, the harbors and the ports and the railroads of the country, the economy, especially of the southern states, could not conceivably be what it has become if they had not had, and do not still have indeed, and for so long, for many generations, cheap labor. I am stating very seriously, it's not an overstatement. I took the company, and I carried the money, and I built the railroad under someone else's whip for nothing. For nothing. The Southern oligarchy, which has until today so much power in Washington, and therefore some power in the world, was created by my labor and my sweat, and the violation of my women and the murder of my children. This, in the land of the free and the home of the brave, and no one can challenge that statement. It's a matter of historical record. In another way, this dream, and we'll get to the dream in a moment, is at the extent of the American Negro. You watch this in the Deep South in great relief, but not only in the Deep South. In the Deep South, you are dealing with a sheriff or a landlord or a landlady or the girl of the Western Union desk. And she doesn't know fight who she's dealing with, by which I mean that if you're not part of the town, and if you are a northern nigger, it shows in millions of ways. So you simply
Yep, definitely a very powerful speech that he was given there and everything. I think most folks can definitely agree with what was happening in that conversation. And definitely, I think folks were very engaged in what was going on. So, Eric, what were your thoughts as you were hearing that historical speech and everything?
I mean, you have both sides. I understand, both sides. I mean, I guess I would lean, of course, James Baldwin's direction, but then the other gentleman, he had his version of how he saw America and the Negro issue or problem, whatever you want to call it, plight or whatever you want to call it. And I think it was an honest debate. And Baldwin, I guess, was able again. He's very much able to captivate people, to sway people, kind of like a Trump, and come out on top. That was quite a. The other guy was very he can be well spoken, and he can put things in a certain way that people maybe at least willing to listen, if not lean. So it was a historic debate. We're talking about at Oxford and during that time period. So I mean, for James Baldwin to be at Oxford, I mean, again, that speaks to his marketing ability and able to wield that type of influence during that time period.
Oh yeah, no doubt he was definitely influencing folks and things of that nature. But we're going to wrap everything up and all. I've still got to play some of the spots, and I did say I was going to get some music on because that's part of what we do on Mullins Music and Memories. So I'm going to bring up some of the music from Miss Jody and, of course, some of our other shows as well. But I know that I'll still be having conversation with you on the podcast later on this afternoon, but I'll let you go get a glass of water and relax, and then give me a call at that 646 number in about another 15 minutes or so. But did appreciate you being on. You were a great guest, and I'm glad that folks were able to learn about that book. So if you want to give them once more the title of the book, as well as where they can find you at. And then, like I said, I know you'll be calling the podcast later on as well. But if you can definitely give folks the title of the book and where they can find it and how they should go about ordering it, we'll do that right now.
Yeah, thanks again for inviting me on. Want everybody know that he was so gracious, Mr. Lee, to allow me to be be on, and the first time me being on air, I'm very appreciative. But getting to the point, because the book is main title is Trump the Colossal Poison. Trump the Colossal Poison. My name is Eric Deloge. I'm the author of that book, and you can get that book on Amazon. Go to Amazon and look it up under books for Amazon, and you can definitely purchase it. I definitely want people to hear it, and maybe it can be of use in your decision making in terms of voting. And definitely everybody vote, and vote early. Thanks again for having me on.
No problem. Glad to have you on. And like you said, the voting is very important. I look forward to having a greater conversation later on in about another 15 minutes on Straight Talk with Dean and Mark at that 646 number, 646-668-8393. But in the meantime, we're here to bounce off of this show. I've got some announcements about some shows that'll be coming up here on a regular basis, as well as bringing you that music that I always promise y'all on Mullins Music and Memories as well. So I think we'll start off with the music first, and then after the music, I will bring you the announcements about some other shows that are existing here as well on IBM.TV. And then, like I said, we will be calling and having a conversation about the Trump book and about a number of other things. And of course, we've got other programs here on IBM.TV that will also be great and very enlightening conversations. But right now, let's check out this particular song by Miss Jody entitled Big Daddy. All right, folks. Definitely some songs rocking there and all of that. But we're going to wrap everything up and all of that. But I am going to bring you some of the spots that we've got here. So definitely hope folks will enjoy themselves and have a good old time with what's going on. But we do have some shows that are very popular right here on IBM.TV. So I'm going to bring you a few of those right now. Don't forget that every Monday. And of course, we've got these amazing shows that take place as well. Don't forget that we've got funk music with Zach that comes on, and we've got funk from the front seat. So this is funk from.
You know, the funk don't always give you what you want, but it'll give you what you need. You know what I'm saying? We never left. Yo, we back. NHFA in your face. Bringing you something good to your ear hole, y'all. Check it out. It's our time to shine. It's our time to grind. It's the phone.
And of course, there's this one as well. And of course, one of our latest editions about American politics. And then the ambassador to tell us what to do during these hard times.
Coronavirus से कैसे बचेंगे? जी, हैंड होकर और ऐसे अपने खांसी जब आएगी तो ऐसे करेंगे अछू अछू और कोरोना वायरस को धन्यवाद हमारा म्यूजिक सुनने का.
And then the plane to get us on out of here.